marketing these. And yes, I'm pitching to you.
That's Steve Levine, the inventor and principal behind the One Hit Wonder. And this little efficient device is getting rave reviews.
And there's more uses than just a one-hit wonder.
The One Hit Wonder, you get a 50 milligram hit.
So if you used a one-hitter or dugout before, you know the challenges. Steve's One Hit Wonder is easy to clean, use, and enjoy.
Standard one-hitters do not work. We're afraid to inhale. The One Hit Wonder has a built-in ash catcher. So inhale like it's your last breath. Suck the ash right through.
Get it at onehitwonder.com.
Hi, everybody. Yes, it's that time again. It's Friday afternoon, and thank God it is, right? We all know about TGIF. We live it every single week of our crazy, wacky lives. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media. We're here every Friday at 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. That's Eastern time. And we've got a pretty damn good show coming up. Some really interesting guests, a wide variety, if you will. But we're going to start with our regular. And I don't know if I'm going to embarrass him or not, but I'm going to thank him again officially. Morgan Fox has joined us on the third Friday of every month, probably now for 3 years, 2 years? I don't know, a while. That's right. And he's on vacation, and he still made the effort to come on to talk with us and you and me and all that. And I give, you know what? Used to be a guy named Ted Sarandis, a round of applause, right? A round of applause. Okay. All right. Morgan Fox from NORML. What the hell's going on in Washington, D.C.? And by the way, you don't know because you've been on vacation, right?
I mean, just for the last couple of days. And you know, the fight never stops. So I'm always checking my email a little bit. I just have to decide whether or not I want to respond to it. You got to have a dividing line.
Oh, yes. And if you don't know what it is, you'll be told what it is. Mm-hmm. Right? Okay, let's make
with Congress being in recess right now, I figured now is as good a time as any to take a few days off and decompress. Get a little bit of preparation in order for when everybody comes back at the end of the month and the Hill really starts heating up, and there are going to be a lot of interesting things going on.
Could you have sent the congressman home with like a primer about the industry? And I know they probably heard it millions and millions of times, but you know, this is a critical time in the history of the end of cannabis prohibition. I think I'm comfortable saying that now, with 23 states have adult use legal programs. And I believe, pretty sure it was a Gallup poll this week. We have it in We Talk News, so I know it's there. More than half of Americans have at least tried cannabis once. Morgan, I'm sure you saw those headlines.
I did. The bigger takeaway from Gallup this year was that it reiterated that a majority of Republicans support legalization across age groups. This has been true for a couple of years at least, but traditionally it's been younger voters, because the age demographic, I think, is much more important than partisanship when it comes to cannabis policy reform and the desire to legalize. Because younger people have more experience with cannabis and more experience with legal cannabis systems, and they have better access to information than previous generations did about the harms caused by prohibition as well as the potential medical benefits of cannabis. So, it looks like the trend is going in the right direction. And now it's just up to folks like myself to make sure that conservative lawmakers recognize where the winds are blowing when it comes to younger voters, and work with their counterparts across the aisle to develop good policies to help regulate cannabis. And we are on our way there right now.
Okay, from your mouth to God's ears on Green Rush Live, Morgan, we want to see some kind of federal reform in 2023, or a lot of ways. I'm looking back, I'll be saying it's kind of a lost year. Do you guys feel pressure because of the calendar, or do you expect the DOJ to at least come out with a new scheduling for the Controlled Substances Act?
Well, so I think that there's always a lot of pressure, even if there's plenty of time available, because honestly, it's very difficult to get anything cannabis related on the congressional schedule, regardless of what chamber it is. There are so many other issues, and unfortunately, lawmakers are kind of oblivious, and this is on both sides of the aisle, are kind of oblivious to the fact that this issue is rising in importance for the average voter. Obviously, we have some champions on both sides of the aisle and in both chambers, but the average lawmaker is not quite convinced yet, which is why I'm glad that you mentioned that we really want to be blowing them up when it comes to getting back from recess. And if you go to norml.org/act, you can help make sure their inboxes are full. We're working every day to make sure that their voicemail boxes and their assistants who are still on duty are just hearing nothing but get cannabis policy reform done in this session when they get back, so that we don't have to wait until really when the campaign season really starts hitting or heating up, and it becomes much more difficult to do anything in a bipartisan fashion, or anything that is unrelated to what both these parties seem to want to do, which is just trash each other instead of actually governing.
And that was going to be my follow-up question, Morgan. Are we ever, I mean, the two-party to me, okay, and granted, I'm from Massachusetts, everybody knows what side I lean on, but both parties are to blame here, both parties. And again, do we need these two political parties? Think of how much money is going to be spent on the campaign for a new set of elected officials over the next year. Now, you're going to tell me that it's really important that they spend it and get it out there? Is that the only way that they feel like they can hear from their constituents? And obviously your idea of just getting on the NORML website and flooding email inboxes is great. I'm so distraught, Morgan. Make me feel better.
Well, I mean, I have to say that partisan politics on a broader scale in this country is pretty messed up, and I don't have an answer for how to fix that. But what I do know is that if voters, regardless of political persuasion, are telling candidates and lawmakers that they want to see cannabis policy reform happen as soon as possible, they will eventually start to listen. It might take them a while, but they will eventually listen, especially if we can show that it has an effect at the ballot box for their reelectability.
And that's really all they care about. I really don't think they care about what their constituents want. Maybe they say they do, and maybe they'll show you some examples. But are they really going to listen to the people, or are they just listening to the people around them, which tell them a completely different story, I'm going to guess?
Well, even the most principled of lawmakers still needs to actually be in office in order to get anything done and be able to enact those principles. And that means that they have to pay attention to public polling, and in particular constituent polling. So, I mean, it's really on us as the non-elected officials to make sure that they know where we're coming from, and make sure that they know that this is a high priority issue. At the end of the day, if they don't listen to us, we can show them that there are consequences for that.
Consequences for your actions. That's the mantra of parenting. That's setting boundaries and parameters around your children to keep them safe is probably the number one job of a parent after they get out of their diapers. Okay, so
well, my kids sure don't like it.
There you go. Hey, there was actually a pretty major story this week with a multi-state operator, Tilt Holdings, out of Arizona, with no communication with their new interim CEO in charge. He decides to basically eliminate all the social equity programs that they had supported under his predecessor. And I'm not going to use the two names because it's CEO and CEO. Let's just leave it at that. But the bigger picture here, and again, this is one of the reasons why I've started what I started, because I hate injustice. I want people to understand that there's a bunch of people out there who were victimized by the failed war on drugs. They have an opportunity to get into this industry. And now our government, our local government, and even some of our businesses are just showing you how deep racism and prejudice goes, because I don't think that it was prejudice or racism that they did it, but it sure looks that way. And I mean, Ricky Williams, Heisman brand, and Dank Duchess is another one. I mean, you talk about, I may be using this in my next public relations course and about what you should not be doing. A communication would have been nice, a heads up of some kind. That to me is more upsetting than them actually doing it because of a bottom line situation. Morgan?
Yeah, I mean, I'm only a bit familiar with the situation with Till Holdings, and I not being in full possession of all the facts, I'm a little bit loath to comment on that particular case, but it sure looks bad. And this is a little bit indicative of something that we've seen a lot of throughout the last few years when it comes to cannabis companies trying to support, or at least appear to support, social equity. There's a lot of social pressure on these bigger companies to be able to support repairing the harms of the war on drugs and support the development of social equity businesses. Some of them have done a pretty good job in terms of like internal hiring and hiring diversity managers and actively providing training courses for incoming businesses. But on the other hand, we've also seen a lot of companies engage in predatory partnerships with social equity brands where they will more or less demand control of the company. And if they can't get that, they're going to drop them. We've also seen a lot of these bigger companies starting to retreat from markets where they don't have majority control of that market, or where there's too much competition for them. And that's really unfortunate. I think that a lot of the companies out there might be willing to support social equity licensees right up until the point where they find out that these people don't want to just be window dressing and subsidiaries for them, but actually want to be competitors for them. And at that point, they don't want competition. And we've seen a lot of the big MSOs moving away from markets where they can't guarantee that there is very, very limited licensing, or where they can't guarantee their own licensing supremacy.
What caused this market slowdown, Morgan? I mean, everybody who's in the industry, doom and gloom. Oh my God, race to the bottom. I'm hearing that still. Was it all just this logjam into the federal government, and then everybody digging in their heels and their egos get involved? I mean, why can't the people that we've elected listen to the people and do something for them, plus small business people?
Well, I mean, if you look at the state level cannabis markets, these states are reporting record sales month after month after month. With a few exceptions, for the most part, like sales are just going up and up and up, which is great because it means that there's more unregulated market capture, and consumers are starting to transition into the regulated market at a greater rate. But at the same time, I think that a lot of the complaints about market contraction and things like that are largely because of investors who feel like they got burned because bigger companies and investment funds really sold them a bill of goods. And over the last 5 years or so, have been continuously telling people this is the new green rush, without recognizing or telling these potential investors that this is a state siloed, federally illegal product, and that the wheels of federal change move very slowly.
Yeah.
And so then they get super pissed off that they're not getting the instant returns that they thought they were going to get. And then they start pulling their money out, and then the companies start to suffer and have to start to contract some of their activities in potentially new markets or in old markets where they're not getting exactly the type of turnaround and margins that they want. And really all of it comes down to the fact that nobody is being honest with a lot of these investors and telling them, look, this is a long haul. You should invest in this, but be prepared to wait.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's down the cannabis standard time, one step forward, two steps backward. I mean, it just happens to be that way. And, we can call it whatever we want. Hey, I have to ask this question because I read something this week that there's, the DOJ is looking at where they think cannabis should be placed on schedule for the Controlled Substances Act. Personally, I'd like them to see them rewrite the damn act, okay, and actually look at it the right way, but I'm not going to go there because right now I think the simplest thing is to get cannabis off Schedule 1 and hopefully descheduled, right, Morgan? We want it descheduled, but if you have to, settle for a schedule. Is Schedule 3 something you can live with?
Schedule 3 is not something that is actually going to remove the conflict between state and federal law. It'll help some companies because ostensibly it will affect 280E and it will affect banking and some research barriers, but really not that many. And also the scheduling, it doesn't really matter when it comes to a lot of the criminal codes and a lot of the civil codes that do affect cannabis consumers and cannabis generally, right? But if I'm giving you my honest read, I don't think that we're going to see descheduling be able to pass in the current Congress. There's just not enough momentum for it, and there's not enough support for it. And the Biden administration, might be begrudgingly interested in moving it down to Schedule 3, but that still requires sign off from the head of the DEA, and they have the ability to slow walk this as long as they want. I honestly would not expect there to be any scheduling changes, at least until the next administration, even if it's the same president.
So even though the DOJ is supposedly working on this and studying it and researching it, all those news stories that we're hearing about the movement by the DOJ, that's all false, you're telling me?
So DOJ may very well be analyzing a new policy memorandum similar to the Cole memo that may provide a little bit more protection to existing state programs. But while DOJ at large is ostensibly in control of the DEA, it's the DEA administrator that actually has the final word on any sort of scheduling changes, absent an act of Congress. And as I said before, we're not going to see an act of Congress for rescheduling or descheduling in this current session.
No.
We can't even get simple veterans bills passed at the moment, let alone something that broad. That being said, I still think that there's a lot of possibility within the current Congress for incremental legislative changes, and that I think the administration would sign if they're passed in both houses. But that is going to require us getting on the calendar as soon as possible, because things are heating up in terms of the national election for 2024, and that is going to suck all the oxygen out of the room. But if you're just sitting there waiting on the HHS review and a potential rescheduling, I think honestly you're going to be holding your breath for quite a long time.
Well, that's the perfect lead into the next thing. It's 420. And then you're on vacation, and I'm not going to keep you a second after you and I could keep talking and talking, but the fact that you did this on your vacation means a lot to all of us here at Pro Cannabis Media. And I thank you and our other friends at NORML for waving that flag. Now, we are going to take a break. So let me set up this break, Morgan, and then you can, unless you want to say goodbye now. You want to say goodbye now? It's 4:20. I can handle it from here. Trust me. I'm going to a break.
I just want to thank you for the opportunity to keep having me back and to be able to reach your audience. I always appreciate it, and it's always a good conversation.
Well, thank you very much, Morgan. I appreciate that too. And I just want to give a kind of a what's going to happen over the next an hour and a half, basically an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes. So it's 4:20. We're taking our break now. We'll play Jonathan Edwards Shanty, my favorite song. It's the one. Yeah, whatever. You don't need me to go into that. If you want me to, I'm happy to. But coming up after that is the Northeast Cannabis Symposium preview with 3 exceptional women in the cannabis space in Massachusetts. All 3 are friends. All 3 I have tremendous respect for. I've worked with some of them. One is Cara Crabb-Burnham. The other is Maggie Kinsella. And we also have Jessica Zambarano with us as well. And I hope it's Jennifer. It's Jennifer, isn't it? It is. It is. I screw up that name all the time. Jessica. It is Jessica, so I got it right. I need to go with the flow. Thank goodness I've got the man behind the curtain. All right, Dan French, you bailed me out again. Thank you. Take the break, and we'll be back. I will be back really live at the top of the hour.
Yeah, this is a tune that I wrote back in 19... I've forgotten. We had a saying in our old band, one of my first bands in 1966 or so. What are you going to do tonight? Oh, just, you know, like every other night, just going to lay around the shanty and put a good buzz on. Gonna sit down in the kitchen, fix me something good to eat. Make my head a little high, make the whole day complete. Gonna lay around the shanty, oh mama, and put a good buzz on. Pass it to me, baby, pass it to me slow. We'll take time out to smile a little before you let her go. We're gonna lay around the shanty, oh mama, and put a good buzz on. You're on something. Go ahead. Rick Brodsky, everybody. Nothing to do and there's always room for more. Fill it, light it, shut up and close that door, baby. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on. Take it, okay. Prohibition never works, it's time to realize it. It grows in my backyard, it's time to legalize it. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on. I'm gonna sit down in my rented car. I'm gonna jam it into drive. Gonna head on out and play at WSCA with Sean. I'm glad I'm alive. We're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on. Every night and day, we're gonna lay around the shanty, mama, and put a good buzz on.
I'm marketing these, and yes, I'm pitching to you.
That's Steve Levine, the inventor and principal behind the one-hit wonder. And this little efficient device is getting rave reviews.
And there's more uses than just a one-hit wonder.
The one-hit wonder. You get a 50 milligram hit.
So if you used a one-hitter or dugout before, you know the challenges. Steve's one-hit wonder is easy to clean, use, and enjoy.
Standard one-hitters do not work. We're afraid to inhale. The one-hit wonder has a built-in ash catcher. So inhale like it's your last breath. Suck the ash right through.
Get it at onehitwonder.com.
Hi, everybody. Welcome again to another edition of Green Rush Live, Pro Cannabis Media's regularly scheduled business of cannabis talk show that we do every Friday afternoon here at 4 o'clock to 6 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media, and every week we look for interesting people that we can feature at the top of the show, because we know once you have people watching the top of the show, they'll perhaps stick around and watch the rest of the show. So I'm so happy to welcome in Jessica Zambarano, Cara Crabb-Burnham, and Maggie Kinsella. And I'm so happy to see them all in one space, which is unbelievable that we got these three women to actually sit still and not be doing whatever they do in the cannabis space. Cara, first of all, I feel like I've known you for a while, since you were actually one of the first guests on the original In the Weeds with Jimmy Young in the studio back in 2018, Cara. I even remember the date and what you were doing. I'm not going to bring it up, but you do remember. Do you remember? It has to do with the fact that you were
2016?
2018.
Or 2018.
Yeah.
I was working with a lab.
Yes, you were, but you were also going through something personal. Let's just leave it at that.
Oh, lots of 2018 was a great year for me, actually. Also, I believe you were there when I recorded with Joyce Gerber for the first time.
That's right. And the Canamom show is still going strong, and I'm very proud of Joyce for picking up what she learned here and has applied it beautifully and all that. But that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about NERCS, not to be confused with NARCS, okay? It's the Northeast Regional Cannabis Symposium. And I have to ask, what the hell is a symposium, Cara?
A symposium is a convivial discussion after great libations.
Aha! That second part is what freaked me out a little bit there. No, I get it. And you brought in.
That's what Webster said. It's a discussion though. It's a two-way conversation. It's not a panel. It's with people talking at you. It's not there to sit necessarily. There's not going to be very many specific training. It's about a conversation that needs to happen amongst the workforce for the benefit of the operators.
Gotcha. And my goodness, here we are. This is a Massachusetts-centered program. So we have we do have an event in the Greater Boston area. Why don't you actually, Maggie, why don't you tell us when the symposium is, when the dates are, how people can find out about it right off the top, so we get that out of the way. And then we can talk about the state of the cannabis industry in Massachusetts.
Yes, it is Wednesday and Thursday, August 30th and 31st at the DCU Center in Worcester. You can check out all of that information on our website, nercsymposium.com. There's surveys on there for employees to take.
Anonymous.
Feedback. They are anonymous. We have different engagement bundles, so you can send your staff. We have sponsorship available. We really want to see the industry and their workforce participate in this event.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I do enjoy going to those events because I really like the passion that is amongst everyone in this industry, whether you're in Massachusetts or you're in California or you're in Minnesota, the newest state to legalize and go adult use. But let's bring Jessica in, because I don't want to ignore her either. She is the event coordinator for this event. Am I right, Jessica?
Well, I'm actually a co-founder of NERCS along with Cara and Maggie, and we're the entire team. So we've done everything from build our deck and our website to setting up the events, sales, every aspect of this. It's the three of us here. So, and it's a pretty big event. We're expecting around 300 to 350 people for the 2 days at the DCU Center. So
that's great.
Yeah.
And it's only 22 minutes away from where I am right now, the world headquarters of protest in Clinton, Mass. So I'm sure I'll be covering it for Weed Talk News because I'm so proud of that news show that we do. What was that? What was that, Cara?
Fantastic.
Five
Clapping.
snaps.
I got it. I got you. I got you. All right. All right.
Snapping.
So we've definitely set this up a little bit, but I'd like Cara, because I know you are, out of the three of you, you're the most opinionated. I don't think that's going to upset either Maggie or Jessica.
I don't necessarily know that that's true.
Well, I do know.
I might just be the most loud with my opinions.
All right. So you are a consultant in the business. You've been in it. Gosh, it feels like you've been in cannabis for the last, 10 years almost?
We're actually creeping up on 15.
Wow. Fantastic. And so let's talk about what's going on in Massachusetts, because I am a little concerned, not just about the prices and all this stuff, but there's a lot of backstabbing going on. There's not a lot of feeling of collaboration that was definitely part of this, maybe even 2 or 3 years ago. Now it's a little more cutthroat. Is that an accurate description of what you see in Massachusetts?
Well, I guess it depends on how you look at the individual relationships. If you're talking about, 6 dispensaries, small retail facilities in a, half a mile small town, then there's going to be a lot of cutthroatedness there because, we're a relatively small market. But I was actually just doing, I was going through Google Maps and finding all of the there's huge chunks of the state there's no one there. I mean, if you talk to pizza stores, if you talk to liquor stores, if you talk to whatever grocery stores, they target a community. I mean, nobody wants to drive 40 minutes to buy weed. We gotta expand how many retails there are so that everybody's not clumped into these little pods. But if you're talking about the cultivation and the product manufacturing groups, I think that there's a ton of collaboration. I mean, We've got certain groups that are making highly bioavailable liposomal powders that can be added into tons of different kinds of products. So if you have a recipe, you can get a white label and you have a whole new product on the market. So I think it sort of depends on who you're talking to, who's cutthroat. And then, I think a bigger problem, honestly, is why are people not paying their bills?
Because we don't have any money. It's a very
but then you can't do business. We have certain operators now that are looking at 6-7 figures of debt of accounts receivable.
Right. No.
How do you operate on that?
It is very, very slow, and everybody's slow paying. And by the way, that's been pretty consistent over the last year. Can I say that?
It's just been getting worse, I think.
Oh, yeah. No. Well, we're not in a crisis like the Cannabis Control Commission, but others,
But everybody keeps using that line about the whole industry. She wasn't talking about the whole industry. She was talking about the commission. She was talking about just the commission.
I knew it was the commission.
They can be in crisis.
Even that is a story unto itself. But I don't like to point fingers at regulators because I think they have a very, very difficult job. It's, you can't please everybody all the time. I think Bob Dylan said that. Anyway, Maggie, what's your impressions about what's going on in the Bay State as far as the cannabis space goes? And what is the biggest factor that still has to happen in this state? I think I know what the answer is. I'm kind of setting you up with that because I have a feeling you're going to say this. But what do you think the Massachusetts scene is like in cannabis right now?
Well, so admittedly, I feel like when comparing to myself to people who are in the scene, I'm kind of out of the scene right now because Coyote is still provisional. So I'm hearing more than actually experiencing it at this point, but it seems like chaotic. It seems like we need some workforce training and development, and from the bottom up, create that camaraderie and that those best practices that we can come up with together instead of compartmentalizing everything. And I feel like when you do that, you create those relationships in the industry that allow you to do better business. So, that would make things, I think, less chaotic, probably. I would hope so.
and Jessica is the event manager. JZ Marketing is her company. Jessica, you said you were one of the founders of NERCS. Am I right? Did I not hear that?
Yes.
How did that happen? And how did you end up in the event space?
Well, I've been in the events, I've been in marketing for nearly 2 decades now. And I was with a vertically integrated operator for about a year and a half. And shortly after I left there, I met Cara through the Metro West networking group.
Wait.
And
Eric's group?
yes, that's where I met Cara.
Oh
And
man.
Cara told me about this vision that she had for this event and said, "Do you want to make it happen with me?" And I was like, I actually didn't have to think very long and hard about it. Having worked in the industry myself, there's a lot that needs to happen to make this industry more professional, and honestly more livable for a lot of people because I've heard so many stories across the industry about people who are being overworked or underpaid or working in conditions that are not healthy for them. And I think all of these things need to be addressed. So it kind of was impeccable timing and something I could really get behind and work with Cara on help developing a better cannabis industry in the state.
So Cara, what can people expect once they show up at the DCU Center at the end of August? What are they going to get out of this NERC symposium?
Well, so it'll be 2 days of highly interactive and participatory breakout sessions. So we'll do SWOT analyses on different departments or license types. We'll talk about regulations and how people who are working within them are affected by them, manage through them, find solutions. The cannabis industry worker is incredibly brilliant, incredibly patient, incredibly innovative, and I think there's a lot out there that we are not accessing by not having larger conversations with this cohort. So I think that they're going to make friends. I think they're going to laugh and have fun. I think they're going to share their brilliant ideas. And I think there's going to be a lot of catharsis of people going, "You too? Nah, you too?" And so, you're just going to have the conversation, have a very open conversation about what our challenges are and where our successes lie.
There you go. And exchange includes engagement. And that's the magic word in the media world these days is, did you engage with your audience? Well, you're creating something that is engaging. So you would think that the whole thing is going to be really good to be there and exchange ideas and patterns and stories and all that stuff. And I will tell you this, everybody laughs at cannabis events because, a lot of them are under the influence of cannabis. I'm sorry. It's true.
Nothing wrong with that.
Not Maggie, though.
It's interesting, Jimmy, that you highlight the word engagement because that's a big piece of this, and that's exactly why we're selling engagement bundles to licensed operators throughout the state. We wanted people to understand that this wasn't just something where you bought a ticket and sent your employee or sent your employee like for training purposes. And this wasn't an event where you're going to go and, meet your wholesale buyers and exhibit and all of that. This is an event that's built for the workforce, and we want every single person there to be engaged and contributing. And as a team, we're going to be collecting all of this information and turning it into the 2023 NERC's industry report. I'd love, maybe Maggie can talk about that because she's kind of heading that up for us.
It is my favorite part of the whole thing, as these ladies have heard me say a million times. I'm not ashamed of it. It is really the value add after the event of those who participated. So the companies that, get engagement bundles and send their teams, individuals from different departments, as many as they can send out. These employees up to mid-level managers will sit in a room together. They're going to establish some of the themes and situations that they've each gone through, how they've dealt with it, how they stayed in compliance. This is going to be a development of best practices of the workforce. So you're talking about the voice of the employee. And that is going to be credited to the companies that send their employees to participate as contributors to this best practices report. So I'm really excited about it. I didn't breathe through that whole thing because I wanted to get it out. It's my favorite part. So I think especially after the event, when we look at collectively what the workers the people who are dealing with just like the day to day, what they've put together and what that's going to do for the whole space. I get, my brain explodes of
It's
all of
ex
the possibilities.
it's exciting, and it
Yeah.
really embraces that idea of collaboration.
Yes.
I think we've had a number of people come on board. We're really excited for this event, but we also saw a number of places that weren't so excited, that were a little worried over sharing information. But we really do feel that collaboration beats competition every time. We want to bring people together. We don't want, we really feel that some of these smaller, more curated brands that are wonderful brands and wonderful products, they're going to stand a better chance at succeeding long term in the industry if they have a network of others that they can kind of lean on and work with through the process.
So creating an inner circle, if you will, for each one of the participants, maybe a goal of theirs, right? How can we find a better delivery service, or maybe there's a better container service, or there's a million different ancillary companies that are involved in cannabis, and they're all looking to collaborate, not compete. But we do know that there's competition, and I think we also recognize the fact, as you guys talk about workforce development, what's going on in New York City, New York State, soon to be Illinois, and I'm talking about that word union. Are the employees of cannabis dispensaries, A, do you support that? B, what kind of an impact might that have on the industry, if any? I was an after SAG guy for 11 years and saved my job a couple of times. Let's not go there, but they did. And so where do you think a union like the the Food and Commercial Workers Union seems to be?
UFCW.
Yeah.
I think that unions serve a very important place in the workforce and in history, and going forward in very specific industries. I think they do a lot of good. I see NERCS as, on a parallel path up the mountain of employee happiness, this summit of the contented, happy to go to work employee. I see us on parallel paths. We have the same goals. We have the same goals as the unions. We want workers to be safe. So we can't offer, we only have 2 days, so we couldn't offer like a 30-hour OSHA training, but we can offer a training session on what you should expect out of your OSHA training. Do you even know what bullet points should be hit? Do you even know what things can never get left out? So we want to have that activity as one of our breakout sessions, so that they leave empowered when they go back to work. The next time they get a job with an OSHA training, they know they have to include ladders, because I have to use a ladder. I have to know where these chemicals are. I have to know how to use the chemicals. I have to know where the SDS sheets are. All of these pieces that a lot of times get looked over during training because you're so focused on the SOPs, loss, cleanliness. There's goes into a valuable cannabis employee. And further, we're not children. This is not some first job. Like, you're not hiring entry-level people in cannabis. Most 21, most people have had a job by the age of 21, some kind of job, internship, volunteering. They've done something, and yet the level of professional respect that I think the cannabis employee deserves, from the trimmer to the CEO, from, facilities management to, our head cultivator. All these positions deserve professional respect. And that comes with benefits, that comes with 401ks, that comes with a living wage.
I can't wait to develop a business that has all that stuff, by the way.
Right? It would be amazing. I don't have employees because I can't offer those things.
That's right. And by the way, it is not easy to start a business in Massachusetts, because if you do start with full-time employees, W-2 employees, you have to provide health insurance for them.
Yes.
And it really is, first of all, I support that. I think it's great. I remember my family's business. They were talking about health insurance back in the 80s and 90s, for crying out loud. And it was still a big issue back then. But I do want to talk about another issue, not the unions this time. This time, I think I want to go towards, this is what happens when you get old and you start talking and you want to talk about something specific, and then it just kind of floats away from you. And I'm not under the influence of anything, because I make sure that I'm not when I do these things, so I can be sharp and focused. And more times than not, I forget where I was going. But I'm going to come back to it. It's testing. Thank you very much. See, it's just about a 15-second delay. All right, I got it, guys. Give me some credit. If our
came back to the station,
the testing labs are getting a lot of heat, if you will, and it's a challenge. I mean, Maggie, I'm going to go to you for this one, because getting a consistent batch of whatever, edibles, concentrates, whatever it happens to be, is difficult to do under any circumstance. Now you add the over the shoulder, everybody's looking for you. Oh, I got to check to make sure that I've got this, this, and this. And how challenging is it, given the fact that the testing labs are set up and everybody can have different results? And, tell me about the challenges, because then I'm going to say something about testing in a minute. Go ahead.
well, I guess I would say, I think there's better ways we can do it when we look at things like batch sizes and the way that we are trying to gain an accurate sense of the potency. I think you have to take into consideration the different parts of the plant, what's absorbing the most UV and that development of trichome heads. And we're still learning quite a bit. So I think part of the challenge is that we're learning new things every day when it comes to the plant and its production and molecular structures, its uniqueness in the way that it comes off the plant and interacts with each human. And then you have certain things, like I would say with the testing, like, there's good and bad bacteria. So are we testing for things we shouldn't be testing for? Like when we talk about what's a safe product versus a pure product. I think
I'm gonna interrupt you and ask Cara a question right in the middle of this.
Well, I wanted to answer the question, but go ahead.
You could talk about this. I knew it would go long. The stuff that's happening is Massachusetts, when they started to do these regulations, they wanted to have the best tested weed out there. So they put like 20 million things that you have to test for. Did they overdo it, Cara?
Multi-tier question, so slow down.
Yes.
First of all, sample collection.
Yeah.
Sample collection. Like you can't let an operator choose their sample. Like that's crazy. It's totally crazy. And my computer's gonna die because I can't be in my house. Okay, it's okay. I got 12%. Okay, so sample collection, and we have to have somebody, a third party or the lab. I think the lab should do it. Other labs think the third party should do it, but somebody has to go into the facility and collect the 5 to 7 gram sample from the 15-pound batch. It cannot, that task alone changes the game, because then you can't choose your frostiest, prettiest, toppest tier cola tip and send that in as a representative sample of 15 pounds of marijuana, because that's just not flipping accurate at all. Like you can grow a cola that has an bud that has 40%. That's ridiculous, but wow, cool, you did that. But that's not 15 pounds. Like there's no way you hit 15 pounds across the board of that. That's not realistic. That's misrepresentation. And frankly, there's probably marketing laws against why you shouldn't be allowed to do that, because it's not actually accurate information. But like also we're not checking for water activity. So we don't actually know how moist it is. So as it dries out, the concentrate comes up. We're not doing that. That's not accurate. And we don't really, Massachusetts set up the regulations to test to get the cleanest weed. They have the lowest threshold for what's passable, not the most accurate testing. In 935 CMR 500 and 501, there is no scope for testing labs. It says lab must be ISO certified. That means you have to have any certification from an ISO 17025 compliance perspective. If you are ISO 17025 compliance, authorized or certified to scrub floors, then by regulation, you are allowed to test marijuana. They didn't put a scope in there. You have to be certified for pesticides. You have to be certified for microbiome. You have to be certified for heavy metals. They didn't include that. So like I don't know really exactly where the thought on that in the beginning.
That's right. So
there's room for improvement, and we're going to come up with great ideas.
there you go. And you said you're never going to drive 40 minutes to go to a dispensary. I disagree. Excuse me, 40 minutes to get your cannabis, because there are times 25 years ago that people would drive an hour to get an ounce from someone they trust in a parking lot that was not tested. So I, as a consumer and as a medical patient, I like the fact when I go into a dispensary, I know that it's been tested thoroughly. I don't care about the accuracy of it.
But we don't know because they don't do because the lab or third party does not do sample collection. There is no way to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the sample that was tested is part of even the batch that they're calling it from. Like, there's no connection there because it's an easy way to skirt, and they do it by putting their toppest, frostiest bud in there.
There you go.
The random sample testing, it has to. That is the check and balance. If you're not doing that, you're not testing what is actually available on the shelves and gaining that variance of the representation that's there. Curran did
also, Chris Hidella from Proverde had an interesting perspective on this, and that is that there is no specification on what is considered THC. So they can add the THCA, the THCV, the other variants of THC, and they can add that together and call that part of the THC. So whether THCA, which converts at an 88% ratio to THC, that is the only thing that gets you high, is actually at 40%, or if it's a combination of everything else, I couldn't tell you, because there's no specifications, so you can't do that. Like if you're doing nutrients, you can't say vitamin B is vitamin A.
Jimmy.
You have to testing.
There are people that will know.
It's been part of my life, definitely longer than most of you have been alive. Okay, so, and it was completely different back then. We know that the cannabis was not as strong. We know that it was illegal to possess. We know that it was definitely illegal to sell and distribute, and yet we still managed to find it. We still managed to use it. We still managed to learn about it. That's been the most fascinating thing for me since 2013, when the medical program came in, is the depth of information that's out there now on what you can do, what it does to you, what it does with the endocannabinoid system. People that have epilepsy. I have 2 news correspondents that have epilepsy, and they both swear that they wouldn't survive if they didn't have cannabis.
I have a friend who has the same thing. Yeah.
And I know someone that has Crohn's disease who takes it. So it is, at this point, I think there's enough anecdotal evidence to debunk the Schedule 1. Okay.
We
should be able to debunk that. Maggie.
U.S. patent debunks that. The U.S. government patent debunks Schedule 1. We don't need anything else.
That's deep.
Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. I know, but again, the government just wants money, because that's what they do. They think they're representing what the people want, and the people don't want the government to make more money. Am I wrong on that, or what? I mean, I think they make plenty of money. It's what they do with it. It's what everybody does with their money. That's the biggest challenge. I think we can all say that, personally, professionally, business-wise, right? So it's always going to have something. Now, I'm going to go around the room, the Zoom room here, and I've heard that it is Schedule 3 that seems to be where the DOJ's investigation is going. Now, I'm not going to share my resources on that one. Is that something that you can live with, Cara?
No.
I knew that. I knew that. Hold the rest of your answer.
No.
Maggie?
It's a plant.
I know it's a plant.
You can
Maggie?
put sage on, are you going to put sage on there? Like, you're going to, lavender. Let's put lavender on Schedule 3 because it
mugwort. I have a friend who went to an ecstatic dance the other night. They were consuming mugwort tea. Should we put that on the? Yeah.
Wait. What is mugwort? I've never
It's
even
an
heard
herb.
that word before.
It's a plant. It's a plant, an herb, mugwort.
Does it get you high?
I'm not sure exactly what it does, but it does have some effect.
Look,
I mean, if there's terpenes, then
Mm-hmm.
I get
things can happen.
I know what terpenes do. Terpenes steer the cannabinoids. They decide which way it's going to go and all that.
It's part of consumer education on the retail end to know things like that.
Right. That's or host a show and ask the right questions. That's really how I learn most of the stuff I know and all that neat stuff. And probably don't realize that half the stuff I've learned is good. It's good. You can apply it to a million different people, but every single one of those people is going to have a different result from the cannabis that they consume, because every mammal is wired differently. Maggie, am I right?
You are absolutely correct.
There you go. That's all I like, is reinforcement of some of my opinions. I really do love that. And I love all three of you. I really do. I really hope, by the way, Cara is the one who wants to do a women's talk show on cannabis. Am I right, Cara?
I do, but I gotta do it like Oprah style. Like, I can't do it any smaller than that. So I don't know if it's gonna happen. You have to find like the right people to reach out to me, because I just want to be like Oprah.
All right,
straight to Oprah.
It's not such a bad deal, by the way. She's doing pretty well for herself.
Goals, man.
Yeah, that's no. I get the goals. Maggie, last thoughts before we wrap up this section of Green Rush Live. Tell me, first of all, how's Coyote Cannabis doing? You've got a provisional license. What's next?
Yeah, we're under construction. So, we're in a moving timeline. It's going to happen when it happens, and we're ready to shake stuff up.
And Jessica, marketing, events, besides NERCS, or is that your focus right now? Are you working on anything else?
I do have my own marketing business, marketing and events. I will give a shout out to Orange Photonics. Speaking of testing, they created the Light Lab, which does in-house potency testing on 19 different cannabinoids. And they're one of my major clients right now. I help them get through 20 plus events across the country throughout the year, and I work on everything else for them. And I'm growing my business. I hired yesterday, and we'll see what happens. So hopefully I'll be able to take on another client or two soon. But for the rest of this month, it will primarily be NERCS for sure.
NERCS and more NERCS. Cara, last thoughts on this symposium. How good is this going to be? Are you in your mind, when you're a producer and event planner, you have what you expect, and then you have the reality when you get through it. But I'm guessing that you're going to be pretty thorough and check all those X's and dot those I's and neat stuff, and it's going to go off without a hitch.
This event has been in my head, I'd say, for about 2 years. I brought it to a couple different groups that I've worked with, and I just decided, gotta do it. I just gotta do it. Just have to do it. So we're doing it. It's happening.
Where can they get tickets again? Give us the website and all that neat stuff. Give it a plug. Ready to go.
www.nercsymposium.com, and you can go to the sponsor page and see all of our sponsors. You can get a sponsorship. You can buy tickets through our Eventbrite page. You can fill out our anonymous survey. There's actually two. There's one for the employees. There's one for regulators, legislators, and police. And we would just really, love for everybody to come out and talk to us. We're just 2 days of talking, man.
2 days of talking, and for those of us who've made a living talking our whole lives, everybody, I should be looking forward to it. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I thank all three of you for really whatever you were doing today. It was great that you were able to coordinate this call and get this thing done live on Green Rush. So we're going to take a break. We'll come back on the other side with more of Green Rush Live. Don't go away.
I'm marketing these, and yes, I'm pitching to you.
That's Steve Levine, the inventor and principal behind the One Hit Wonder. And this little efficient device is getting rave reviews.
And there's more uses than just a one-hit wonder.
The One Hit Wonder. You get a 50 milligram hit.
So if you used a one-hitter or dugout before, you know the challenges. Steve's One Hit Wonder is easy to clean, use, and enjoy.
Standard one-hitters do not work. We're afraid to inhale. The one-hit wonder has a built-in ash catcher. So inhale like it's your last breath. Suck the ash right through.
Get it at onehitwonder.com.
You would think that it is. However, there's quite a bit of debate right now in the accounting industry when it relates to cannabis with this exact question. I'm part of a few different networking groups that are solely accountants for cannabis companies. And there's been quite a bit of back and forth in those communities and discussion regarding whether 280E, if it went away, if the administration legalized cannabis or took it off of Schedule 1, what would happen? And it could go either way right now. The debate is it could make the accountant's life much easier. That's what a lot of the inexperienced accountants are saying right now, it seems. Whereas the accountants that have been in this industry for a while and have gone through the same thing that happened with hemp a few years ago are saying that will make lives more difficult, because when hemp became declassified a while back, the accounting became more complicated.
Safetiva Labs in Westfield is fast becoming the #1 testing lab for cannabis in Western Massachusetts. Safetiva understands the importance for accurate on-time test results for your product. That's why their current compliance panel turnaround time is less than 2 days. That's Safetiva Labs in Westfield. For more information, go to safetiva.com.
And welcome back to the really live portion of Green Rush Live this Friday afternoon. Hi, everybody. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media and sometimes host of Green Rush Live on Fridays. Next week on this program, Women in Cannabis Expo with Brooke Westlake and I. That'll be all next week. It'll be all about the women in the cannabis industry. But the head of the marijuana industry group out of Denver, Colorado, is Truman Bradley. He joins us now, and I bet he has a comment about how women we have to get more women into the cannabis industry. Do you agree with that, Trev? Do you agree with that, Truman?
That's a fact, Jimmy. And, that's something that I think should be on everybody's radar, both here in Colorado and nationwide. So excited to tune into that episode.
That I just did that. I wanted to make sure that I was able to promote the thing. I'll do it again before the show's over and all that, but that's next week. But first of all, thank you so much for joining us on a Friday afternoon. I know it's always difficult. So there's two things right off the bat that I'm going to talk to you about in Colorado, because as you know, since we produce a weekly news show, I do kind of keep abreast of what's going on in different legal states and even some not so legal states. The fact that now you can order cannabis online from a dispensary, and then can you pay for it online, or do you? I was just reading about it. It's like we've had online ordering. Go and pick it up at the place. We get your order. Okay, here you go, and then you pay. What's the difference in Colorado? Was this a big deal?
So the ability to make online payments is a really interesting thing in Colorado. So during COVID, actually, the governor made a bunch of executive orders to help keep people safe. And one of the things that happened in our industry was, for the first time ever, people were allowed to make payments online. And then, at that time, they would go pick it up at the dispensary, sort of like you would get Chinese takeout or something like that. Well, once the executive order went away, the ability to make those payments online went away as well. And one of the things you may not know out here, Jimmy, the prohibitionist movement is alive and well. It's well funded. And so it took us a few years to be able to go back to the Capitol and codify what had been legal for over a year with absolutely zero issues. And so really proud of some of the MIG members who were able to get that done. Is it a game changer? No, but it's just one step towards destigmatizing cannabis, making it easier for cannabis patients and consumers to get the products that they need in a simple and easy way. So I'm all about celebrating the wins, and that's one of them.
All right. Well, congrats on that one. And I'm all for all celebrations, actually, when you get right down to it. I'm not too discerning either. You don't pay for it online, however. You have to register your debit card with the dispensary somehow, some way?
Well, the state allows you to make the payments online. It's now legal to do so. So there's really two pieces of the puzzle. Number one, it has to be legal in Colorado to do it. And number two, the merchant processors need to be able to accommodate that. So, MasterCard was in the news recently, but we do have the ability right now, at least, to process transactions using debit cards with PINs. So it's not a credit card, but it is a debit card. You can make the payment online and then pick up the product at the store or get it delivered to your house if the local authority allows it.
And it's funny, Massachusetts has had their adult use since 2018. And I actually happen to be in Leicester, Massachusetts today, which is where the first legal, well, Northampton and Leicester can debate this all they want, but the first legal sale of cannabis was made in that. It was cultivated at the time. It's Sunnyside now. It's part of an MSO group. Anyway, so the charge card, it's a debit card that you're basically using the same thing you would use if you walked in the door to make a payment at the dispensary, right?
Exactly, but it just speeds up the whole thing. You make the payment online, you let somebody know when you arrive, you pick it up, easy peasy, you're out the door.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember it happening. Curbside pickup was big during the COVID pandemic here as well. And it's funny, though, it was big on the medical side, but the governor decided he'd shut down the adult use side because he could. And what do you think? What do you think happened?
What I would tell you about that, Jimmy, is cannabis as a movement has always been led by the people. Politicians don't lead on this issue, they follow. So here in Colorado, Amendment 20 legalized medical marijuana. After that, Amendment 64 was a ballot initiative, again, pushed forward by the people. So if we wait for politicians to act, we'll be waiting forever.
Yeah. And, it's funny, when we talk on this show a lot, I talk a lot about, everybody thinks legalization. And I'm like, no. Legalization involves politicians and lawyers. What we want is decriminalization and descheduling, although I think it's going to get rescheduled. As you look at some of the scuttlebutt coming out of Washington, D.C., and we just had Morgan Fox on from NORML at 4:00 to completely douse the fire here. But I asked him, is it going to end up being on Schedule 2 or Schedule 3? And he wasn't too happy about either one of those.
Yeah, I get that. And I mean, I think just, for the listeners, obviously marijuana is considered a Schedule 1 controlled substance, meaning a high propensity for abuse and no medical benefit, both of which are completely bogus, as we all know. But one of the things I'll say from a business perspective is, if marijuana is either a Schedule 1 or a Schedule 2, what that means is the IRS can come in and charge an insane amount of unfair taxes. And that's really what's crippling this industry nationwide. Whether you're the largest MSO or a small mom and pop, IRS code 280E is a killer. And that's really what's hurting the cannabis industry across the country. So if we can get to Schedule 3 or better, that unfair taxation goes away. And I realize talking about taxes can make people's eyes roll back in their heads, but this is a big deal. It really is crippling small businesses across the country. And so I get what Morgan's saying. That makes total sense to me, but we got to get rid of 280E. If we wait to, have all of the comprehensive changes happen in one go, we'll be waiting forever. So, let's take care of one of the biggest killers of small business now and live to see tomorrow.
And you do know that I'm in the Massachusetts area. I've been in the greater Boston area for a majority of my 65 years, over 45 of those 65 years anyway. And a few weeks ago, on the 250th anniversary of the Boston Tea Party, MaryMed, which is a local MSO, under the radar MSO, but they're out there and they're working and they're doing great, got dressed up in pilgrim attire, colonial attire, and dumped cartons that said weed on them into the Boston Harbor, thus reenacting the Boston Tea Party. I thought it was a very, very, very clever promotion. I think only one TV station in town actually covered it, which just blows my mind, but that's how it works sometimes. But I thought it was great, and it is up on our website or our YouTube channel or somewhere. And although I'll be honest, Truman, if you really want to see it, be happy to send you a link so you don't have to go looking for it. It was pretty cool. All right, so now here's the next question, and you said something in one of your statements that the prohibitionist movement is alive and well in Colorado. Is that how you kind of analyze the downward growth that has happened in cannabis, that the sales from 21 to 23 were down by, did I read this right, 22%?
Yeah, so while I'm sure the prohibitionists would love to take credit for the decrease in sales, I don't think that we can give them credit for that one. It really is a perfect storm of a number of things. Let's be honest, the COVID years were good for both marijuana and alcohol. We were all stuck in our homes. We couldn't go to concerts, couldn't go to bars, couldn't hang out. And a lot of people, were imbibing and were, consuming cannabis. And so we went from probably what is now, I think, a bubble to crashing pretty hard. And some of those reasons are, again, a perfect storm. So you've got inflation, right? Rising costs. People have less expendable income. They got to put gas in the car, food on the table. They got to pay their rent. Cannabis is hopefully fourth in line, but it's a distant fourth. And so that's one issue. Number two, because the product can't cross state lines, what's grown here needs to be sold here. And in Colorado, we had 2 incredible harvests back to back, no hail, no freeze, really just exceptional outdoor product, which is good, but as anybody who's taken microeconomics knows, as supply goes up, price goes down. So I think those are a few issues. And then in some ways, Colorado has really been a victim of our own success. We've done it so well that other states have followed suit, including our neighbors to the south, New Mexico and Arizona. So Colorado was the first, and I remember a time when we were the only legal market for 1,000 miles in any direction, and sales were good. So, we've come back down to earth a little bit, but I think the companies here are right-sizing. They're making the decisions they need to make, and we are starting to see a little bit of an uptick just this month. So fingers crossed for Colorado.
So, yeah, 100%. Now, you're smart enough that there is no interstate commerce, wink, wink. Okay, you can't take flower across state lines. However, what's been going on here in Massachusetts is a lot of recipes and brands are coming from California and other places, but mostly California, and then establishing themselves here in Massachusetts with a recipe. So they control the genetics of it. They use the same strains. They put the same terpenes in it and gelatins and whatever else they use to make their edibles or tinctures. So they're making it is going across state lines, but it's just being totally created in the other state. And I keep saying to myself, that should be not fair to the people that are just dealing in the flower world, but nobody's going to challenge that. Are there any Colorado companies that you know of in your industry and in your group perhaps that are doing the same kind of thing? It's RSO, right? Rick Simpson oil. Did that start in Colorado or California?
I'm not entirely sure where RSO started, if I'm being completely honest. But what I will tell you is, I'll take the Pepsi challenge on the intellectual property movement between Colorado and California all day. Okay. Colorado was the first to legalize recreational, and the intellectual property play was something that companies such as Dixie, Wana, those types of brands, they were all over it right from the get-go. And that really included having people fly into those other states, stand up operations, everything from soups to nuts, how to build the manufacturing facility, how to do the recipes, QA, QC, marketing, branding, packaging, you name it, all the way on down. And I think that's something that Colorado has done really successfully. And that's why you see a number of MSOs either originate out of Colorado or pick up a presence in Colorado later.
Is Unrivaled in Colorado?
And you're putting me on the spot on some of these brands. If they are, they're not up. They're not something that I'm aware of right now.
I know the CEO. We've interviewed him. He went to Tufts, not with me because he's much younger than me. Most people are. What's the future? I mean, you guys made a big step by being able to actually order it online and then pick it up at the store or whatever. What is the next goal of your group in your state? Next goal?
Jimmy, I'm glad you asked me that. MIG's goal at this point is a few different things. The first I would say is, yeah, we were the first to legalize, and lawmakers and politicians did their very best to craft rules from scratch. Nobody knew what this was going to look like. But now we're over 10 years into legal rec product here. It's time to take another look at that rule book and get the scalpel out and start to look at what doesn't make sense. Our rule book here is over 500 pages. To put that in comparison, the alcohol rule book here at the state level is 112 pages. So let's chill out on the reefer madness. Let's look at some streamlining opportunities and make sure that Colorado can continue to still be sort of the Napa Valley, at least here in the West.
Yeah, it's getting to normalization is really what everybody's going, in the mature markets, right? Accepting.
Oh, I would tell you we're one of the most mature markets in the country, if not the world, for legal cannabis.
Yeah, absolutely. And congratulations on that. And I think it's anybody who read the book, Weed the People by Bruce Barcott certainly knows what happened. And I recommend that on a regular basis. And Bruce is not a regular, but he's been on our show a number of times. I always find him enjoyable. So federally now, let's go back to that. Do you think, and you mentioned 280E, and of course, Nick, first of all, I should probably thank Nick Richards from Greenspoon Martyr for introducing us, because this is how this all came about. And he's got this, was it 471I, E? There's another clause, D. Thank you. I knew it was 470. Am I right with 471?
471C.
C. All right. Fair enough. I got it. So is this what we're going to see? This is going to keep going back to my comment about legalization. Politicians and lawyers get involved. And we know they're both, I don't know, necessary professions in our free society. How's that for a euphemism, huh? I couldn't resist. Legalization, as far as I'm concerned, is probably 10 years away at the earliest. Agree or disagree?
Gosh, I hope we can take the under on 10 years. I mean, it's, if you put it to a vote, Jimmy, a vote of the people, it would pass like that. And so I hope that it's not 10 years. That would be really disappointing. Let's be honest, because of the unfair taxation, the only people getting rich off of marijuana is Uncle Sam. And that's a real problem. This is something that's much, much safer than alcohol. It is proven that in states with legal cannabis, you're seeing insurance premiums coming down. You're seeing people getting weaned off of opioids. This is something that can help a lot of people. And the side effect is you feel fantastic. So, I hope that we are not talking about this 10 years from now. I think that would be a big loss for our country.
I mean, the country's sitting on a cash economy in this billion-dollar entity, and there's ways to make it grow and grow and multiply in many ways. It doesn't have to stay. If the banks were open, if these things happen, you've got jobs, you've got investment banking, you've got how many ancillary companies are involved with the cannabis industry now? So you really have an opportunity to really make an impact on an economy that is not exactly, flourishing right now with the inflation and what have you. The pandemic just screwed everything up. So again, I'm not even sure where I'm going with this other than to get some comments from you, because I just don't understand. If we all understand what the greatest sales pitches we can have and all the anti-prohibition points that we could counter with science and research and overwhelming anecdotal evidence about this plant, it seems like we're still fighting the battle. I mean, here we go. Education. We have to educate the public. The Canna Curious, the 50-plussers, younger than me, are the fastest growing cannabis demographic group. How do we educate them without access to over-the-air traditional messaging, public service announcements on traditional television and radio? Because the older people are the only people who are really watching television and know even what a radio is.
Yeah, it's a great point. And, one of the things that Colorado has dropped the ball on, there's several that come to mind. The first is social equity. Colorado being the first to legalize really was not thinking about social equity. And now 10 years in, that's a really difficult thing. And it's really complicated. And Colorado flat out missed it on that one. The other one they really missed it on has been hospitality. If you have a place where people can publicly, legally try products out and see how they feel, it does two things. Number one, it allows folks a safe place to try it. Number two, it further destigmatizes something that is it's great on the medical side, it's great on the recreational side, and it's something where, it's interesting, Jimmy. So prior to serving as the executive director for the marijuana industry group, I built a couple of vertically integrated companies here in the space. And after doing it for 8 years, my mom said, do you have anything for your father? He's having trouble sleeping. And it was just fascinating to me that they would have waited 8 years to even ask that question. But, for folks who haven't tried it before, it can be a little bit overwhelming to walk into a dispensary, even though they're beautiful. The bud tenders are very friendly and open. If you've never been in a dispensary before, it is a little intimidating to walk through those doors. And that's why I think we need hospitality for all the reasons. We need to get it out of the shadows and give people an opportunity to try new products.
I agree. In fact, speaking of new products, I might as well tell you about the product that I found. So I got my medical card in 2013. I've had, you don't need to know this, but I've had 4 surgeries in 23 years. That being said, the first words to the bud tender in Brookline, but I'm not going to say which dispensary. Everybody knows which dispensary actually was open in Brookline in 2013. So, you can fill it, people can fill in the blanks. I said, I'm just not sure I want to smoke it anymore. So of course I tried the tinctures and I tried the edibles and I tried the vaping and that's enough pretty much. And then literally about a year ago, I found a great product that is a measured microdose, 3 milligram spritz under your tongue. It's called Yellow Labs, Better Ways to THC. Andrew loves when I talk about his product because I'm sold on it. It is the closest thing, fastest acting, comparable to walking outside and smoking a joint that I have found in the 10 years now that I've had a medical card in Massachusetts. And I don't know if you wrote it down, but check out Yellow Labs, Better Ways to THC.com, because I think it's a great product. And that's the future, is who's going to come up with the products that change the habits? Because flower, 49% of the people still like their flower. So, what's it going to be? Could I ask you a question? How do you imbibe? How do you enjoy it?
Yeah, so personally, I definitely gravitate towards edibles. It's easy. The measured dosing is a game changer, in my opinion. As a former athlete, it's just what I'm drawn to. But there are different strokes for different folks. A lot of people have that. I don't want to call it nostalgia, but there's just a really nice thing about rolling a joint. Whether you're at a music festival or taking advantage of some of the wilderness areas that we have out here in the Rocky Mountains. I think that's something that's really great about this plant, is how many different ways to consume there are. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I really think we're going to see a lot more evolution. It's happening constantly, and it's a really exciting, space.
Now, we know that the word taxes is a nasty word in the cannabis space. We understand that's been croaking the industry since the beginning. There was some scuttlebutt in Washington, D.C., as these people that have no clue about the plant are actually making up the rules about the plant. And one of the things that they talked about was tying THC percentage to an interstate commerce tax. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have. And there's a little bit of precedent there with alcohol. I personally think it's a mistake, but it is something that, bringing it back to the prohibitionists, it's something they would like to see. Personally, I'm not a fan. I think products should be where it makes sense for those to be, whether it's on the microdose side or whether it's something a little more strong, a little more pure. Especially on the medical side, there are folks that need those higher potency products. So I would say that potency is something that's really misunderstood. The way potency is measured is very different than how it's measured with alcohol. It's not a one-to-one correlation. And then, as you know, each individual titrates differently. So, that's something I'm really passionate about, and something that, we have to speak on here in Colorado, because the prohibitionists certainly don't understand.
Right. And even somebody I know who's in the industry use sativa and indica, and I'm like, stop. Don't do that anymore. I mean, it's the terpenes that are dictating what the percentage of THC is, and of course the genetics can change too. But it's really like terpenes are like the gas in the plant in the tank. And I mean, how do we ever explain terpenes to people, because they barely understood CBD, and look what happened in that one. Sorry.
I think that's one of the coolest things about cannabis is how deep the wormhole goes, how much education there is, and what an incredible journey to get to go on. Is cannabis a cure-all? Absolutely not. But if you have medical symptoms, and let's face it, we all do, whether that's chronic pain, nausea, cramping, headaches, you name it, it's worth giving it a look. It's really worth trying it. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of folks have cancer in their family, right? That's part of their DNA. It's worth trying it. And what we have seen, I think the silver lining is people who are dead set against it, the moment something unfortunate happens to themselves or their family member, all of a sudden they're singing a different tune, because when your health is on the line, most people will try cannabis, and they should.
So what we need to do is somehow conspire to get young people to impact the children of the Republicans that seem to be holding up everything. No, I mean, come on. It is what it is. It's part of America. It's a free society. We're going to do the best we can. That's all we can do as humans, right? Just try the best you can and educate people about this plant. So Truman Bradley from the Marijuana Industry Group from Denver, Colorado, I really enjoyed at least getting to know you this week and talking to you like this. And I hope we get a chance to talk again about anything that might come up in your state, because it's obvious what's going on there. How can people find you?
You can find us at marijuanaindustrygroup.org, and really appreciate the opportunity, Jimmy, to come on here and speak with you. I hope we can do this again soon. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. There goes Truman Bradley from MIG. I was going to actually introduce him to Miggy, who's in our chat room all the time, but that would have been really ridiculous. All right, we are right where we should be at this point. We're going to take another break, and when we come back on the other side, we're going to talk a little golf. Not just any kind of golf, but THC golf. And if you've ever played golf under the influence of cannabis, it is not necessarily a performance enhancer, let's just say. We're going to take a break. We'll come back on the other side after.
I'm marketing these, and yes, I'm pitching to you.
That's Steve Levine, the inventor and principal behind the One Hit Wonder. And this little efficient device is getting rave reviews.
And there's more uses than just a one-hit wonder.
The one hit wonder. You get a 50 milligram hit.
So if you used a one-hitter or dugout before, you know the challenges. Steve's One Hit Wonder is easy to clean, use, and enjoy.
Standard one-hitters do not work. We're afraid to inhale. The One Hit Wonder has a built-in ash catcher. So inhale like it's your last breath. Suck the ash right through.
Get it at onehitwonder.com. Sativa Labs in Westfield is fast becoming the #1 testing lab for cannabis in Western Massachusetts. Sativa understands the importance for accurate on-time test results for your product. That's why their current compliance panel turnaround time is less than 2 days. That's Sativa Labs in Westfield. For more information, go to safetiva.com.
And welcome back to Green Rush Live, the final half hour of our regularly scheduled Green Rush Live Business of Cannabis talk show that we do here every Friday afternoon from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. on Pro Cannabis Media. Following this program, as always, will be Weed Talk News with Alaina Pinto. And I will also tease this. I don't know if anybody has been following. You guys are the two people on this show right now, Seth Worby and Brum, are both people I've known for years in this industry. Okay. So first of all, welcome to the show, guys. Seth, good to see you. And
Jimmy,
always good to see you.
Jimmy.
So I tend not to consume cannabis on camera. Maybe it's because I'm 65. Maybe I'm a fuddy-duddy. Maybe I'm trying to, whatever I'm trying to do, be more professional than others out there, because we all know you can find people getting high online everywhere. And that's something we've kind of done differently here at Pro Cannabis Media. So if you want to see me with a guy by the name of Weed Boggs. Now, Seth, do you know Weed Boggs? And
No, I remember Weed Boggs, but not Weed Boggs.
okay, good. So hang out. So he was kind of one of the first influences. He used to do bong hits in famous places all over the world, and he got a huge following for it. Now, of course, that he has a child, he has changed a little bit. He's now, I think he's a stay-at-home dad, actually. So that's what we talk about. But if you want to see that, you can see it after this program's over. The really live show is over, right at 6 o'clock, probably right before we talk news. And it's only a minute and a half video. And I don't even make a fool of myself. All right, let's talk about why you two are here, shall we? Ann Brum from Joint Venture Co. Tell me, the TEEHC Open, it's a golf tournament. Tell me how this all came about, because I know the guy in the other quadrant there had a lot to do with it too.
Yeah, and I feel like we should probably start with Seth, because he's the one who really came up with this idea, and he really was like had this vision for bringing the industry together and marrying his love for the game of golf. And luckily he tapped us in a joint venture co to bring this concept to life. And it's been an absolute joy. But Seth, it's really your baby. Will you share?
So let me introduce who Seth is. He's the CEO of the Cannabis Creative Group, an agency based outside of Boston. Hi, Seth.
Hey, Jimmy, long time. Good to see you. It's been an interesting few years with the pandemic here, and we did a ton of trade shows prior, and trade shows get boring. You see the same people over and over. We have the same booth. We're working on a new one, thankfully. Excited to roll that out in Vegas, possibly in NECANN Albany prior to MJ Biz. But regardless, you're on your feet all day. You're just trying to get business cards. You're hustling, and you're really just soliciting business and the rat race. So anyways, done a bunch of charity golf tournaments, and every time I go to one, it's fun, but you're with your group the whole day. Never really have a chance to network. You get in, you're tired, you eat dinner, you talk to a few people, it goes well, and then you get out of there. So really thought of the TEEHC Open as an idea to bring people together. Not about the golf, but it is at a golf course. There is golf as the activity, but it's more of a networking event. And the goal for everybody is to leave and say, I have to do that again next year. No matter what it is that forces them to do that, whether they have fun on the course, the helicopter that's going to drop balls from the sky. We have the puppy adoption center coming, bringing puppies for people to play with. We have a cannon shooter on one hole. We got all types of activities Dan can go through as we go through this half hour. But anyways, all with a finale of a big concert. So we have the Sensi All-Stars coming, 12, 13 person band, going to bring together networkers, people that are just there hanging out, we can consume throughout the day, and golfers. Have about 400 or 500 people together to do some networking on a Friday night and try to get some business. So it should be a good day. Last year went great, and we're excited for the second annual.
I was just reminiscing about last year because it was the first time I actually got high with Chris Ferrone, and it was out on the deck. So, that was a moment. Anyway, and first of all, where is it? When is it? Are there still foursomes to be sold? Let's ask those three questions. Go in.
Thank you again, Jimmy, for having us on. And it's always a pleasure to connect with the pro cannabis media community and platform here. And Seth, thanks for joining. So Friday, September 8th, in Grafton, Massachusetts, at the Highfield, we'll be flying high at Highfields Golf Course. And you can find out about all the information at TEEHCopen.com, and that's TEEHC open.com. We are sold out of golfers. So we're excited to have 144 golfers, 36 foursomes join us that day. But not to fret, we've got lots of non-golfer activities and activations that will be taking place on or around the course, as well as on or around the golf, the clubhouse area itself. So it's really just not just for rich white old dudes playing a game at golf. We want to make this game accessible, break down the barrier, and for folks that have never picked up a club, never visited a golf course, let's, give them an opportunity to explore this and feel safe and network and learn and support one another and reach certain objectives and goals that we have in the industry anyways.
Well said. Go ahead, Seth.
And Jimmy, to answer your question, we're super excited that as of this week, we're at the capacity for golfers. However, we'll have a sold out golf field, which is super exciting. But we do have a lot of networking and what we're calling happy passes remaining. So if you're interested in coming down and enjoying the day and networking, we have 1 week left. We do plan on selling those out by Friday of next week. So it's super exciting, but networking passes, you come a little earlier and you get a chance to do some speed networking and a trivia game and some other activities that are organized with, and you'll be put with people that you want to meet. So we ask you prior, what type of people do you want to meet? Why are you coming? This and that, and really trying to connect people so they don't have to walk a trade show floor to meet the people they want to meet. And then we have the happy passes, which are just people that want to come and hang out. And we're more than happy to have you. If you don't want to do anything organized, I rented a bunch of extra golf carts. We got some people that know the course that can drive you around to all the different activations. There's dab bar, there's, a dunk tank. There's all types of activities out on the claw game. You can win prizes and a lot of activities, a golf pro, the whole thing.
Did we designate a charity on this one, Ann?
We've got 3 and actually 4 altogether that we're working with. One of our sponsorship packages was with a local 501c3 based out of Worcester known as No Mutts Behind. So luckily that sponsor package has been allocated to my analytics lab based out of Massachusetts. And we're excited to have puppy/dog foster/adoption available. And the other 3 charitable partners that our proceeds from our raffles go to include Mass Fallen Heroes, Hilarity for Charity, and Canna Center of Excellence.
We recognize a few of those names for sure. And that's great. Hey, Seth, here's the $1 million question. Do you consider cannabis a performance enhancer on the golf course or not?
It depends how bad I'm doing that day. I will say, Jimmy, I've been trying to hold it in all day. My friends will tell you differently. For some reason, every time I do smoke, I tend to make a birdie right afterwards, and they don't quite understand it because most people have the opposite effect. I've been trying to hold it in, but I got to tell you, 2 weeks ago, I got my first hole in one. What a feeling, man! Right in the hole. What can I say?
Wait, slam dunk?
5 feet past the hole, it spun back. Nice little pitch.
You can spin it back into that's got style to it. That's like professional stuff, Seth.
It wasn't a mistake. Let's say that. I went in the hole. That's a little luck there, but at the end of the day, it's better than hitting a tree and having it go. And I can say I actually did what I wanted it to do. So pretty exciting stuff. I was pretty fired up.
That's one of the, and by the way, I've probably watched more golf over the last 3 months than I've had in my entire life, just because it's been compelling and other reasons. But for the most part, I've really enjoyed it. And don't tell me, please, what's going on with the BMW Championship, because I know you're aching to tell me. I don't want to know because they're going to watch it later on delay and pretend it was live and all that neat stuff. Kind of like what we do sometimes here at Pro Cannabis Media. Hey, both of you, I know, are very active in the community in so many different ways. And there's all sorts of different issues that are happening, not only here in Massachusetts, but around the country. And one of the things, I think both of you could probably talk about this in a general form, that the necessary presence of multi-state operators versus the craft growers and the small business people, and also the people that are just so passionate about the plant, they just want to help people get better or use the plant in some way. Are we ever going to get a collaboration on who these people are? Because there's a lot of finger pointing going on in this industry right now, and I don't like that, actually. I'd like everybody to be able to get along and everywhere. Seth, I'm going to start with you on this one. Are you seeing a feeling of collaboration or fierce competition, backstabbing? What's the atmosphere like out there?
I wouldn't say backstabbing. I mean, it's a small community, and for the most part, people are kind of jumping around. And obviously, here in Massachusetts specifically, when we started with vertical integration and then moved away from it, it's a totally different ballgame. So, I go down the street here and I'm seeing product from down the street there and so on. So there's definitely collaboration taking place behind the scenes. I mean, 5 years ago, I was on a podcast after coming back from Washington State, CannaCon in Seattle. And I mentioned the same thing, that, hey, I went into 5 stores and I saw the same brand on the shelf everywhere I was going. Are they the Budweiser? Like, are they the Anheuser-Busch, or, or there's that, how did they do that? So anyways, we're getting that here a little bit. You start to have these brands, you have licensing agreements. I think that's a big part of it. Things like Cookies and some of the other big brands from out West that are coming here. You have ex-athletes getting involved, obviously the big Poppy Luntz and Gary Payton and Paul Pierce and so on. And, even Nan mentioned our charity, Hilarity for Charity, which is Seth Rogen's charity, why we support it. And obviously he's a cannabis owner of a business. So to answer your question, I see collaboration, but it's uber competitive at the moment. There's no question. As somebody who markets for these companies in the last 2 to 5 years, we've seen saturation, competition at an all-time high, and it's uber competitive.
Yeah, there's so many lessons to be learned from this industry as far as botany, chemistry, economics, supply and demand. And what's your read on the atmosphere of the cannabis business community out there now?
Well, it really depends on the market, different market maturations, different communities and cultures surrounding it, and how it came to be accessible is just unique and different. We did a campaign with a family-owned and operated MSO known as Wonder Grove, and they launched multiple products in their portfolio in the Missouri market when that went live on February 2nd this year. And being on site, working with ancillary services and other like business owners, like a venue owner, and renting sound equipment and a tent and lighting, and like being able to present the cannabis professionals in a good light of being responsive, knowing what we're doing, being very clear, doing what we say we're going to be doing, I think is a good sign of for these other businesses to have confidence and faith in working with us. And I think that reputation is really, really important for us in this non-cannabis field. But I think it just matters on the maturation of the market and the competition per se, the supply, the demand, the micro versus macro. It's unique and different, which it's a lot of what I love about what we get to do at Joy Venture Co. is help these brands really grow and build a loyal following of a community around them.
Hey, Seth, let's take the temperature of your business. How's it going? Is it growing year after year at Cannabis Creative Group?
It is. We have a lot of people at this point, way more than I ever anticipated. Organic growth, which is good. But we're all over the country. So we've started to hire post-pandemic. We have people now in Vegas, Florida, Colorado, Oklahoma, Michigan, multiple in Chicago. We acquired a company, an agency out of Chicago on January 1, a creative agency that specializes in the food and beverage space. So we were able to utilize their experiences. We have a lot of clients in both cannabis and food and beverage. So anywho, yeah, no, it's been a good run. We're heavily focused right now on helping people get new customers. We've kind of heard the customer out there, the client out there, the dispensary owner, and they all want the same thing. No matter how they ask us for marketing, they're all looking to figure out a way to make more money and get new customers and retain them and get them back through the door. And that's something we're doing a great job with. We have some new SMS services, email marketing, along with all our search and paid services. So going really well, growing.
And they were just nominated for best creative agency through Creative Agency is a category.
Is it an Etsy? Yeah. Is it an Etsy?
For the MJs, the MJ kind of BizCon MJs.
Hey, whenever somebody wants to take on the new show that we produce on a weekly basis, I'll take it on with anybody. That's when I'll start entering contests. Okay?
So I will, Jimmy, I will do a shameless promo, as Ann gave me an opportunity to pipe it. The MJs, EMJAYS, the MJs is a big award out there. Voting is open, I believe, through October. Coming into MJ Biz, it's a pretty fancy event where they give the awards away. We are very excited to be nominated, beyond excited. We've worked really hard. Josephine Noet's my co-founder, who came back into the fold and has rejoined the team as our new VP of growth marketing. And April got her back after a few years over on the other side, working with Bovada and in the product side. So excited to have her back. And together collectively with Dan Serrard, who runs our biz dev, we are all very excited to be nominated for this award, and we're hoping we can win it.
Yeah. But the nomination, I think, is being recognized by your peers, by others, I think is really the greatest form of flattery in a lot of ways. It's why I'm so proud of the Emmy Award I have in the other room.
We're flattered, but if you can vote for us, we'd be more flattered, obviously. We'd like to win, but at the same time, we do understand, as we were nominated for, a diversity award at NECAN amongst some other, best event for the TEEHC Open and amongst others. And whether we win or not, it is flattering to be nominated. And it shows that, we're putting our best foot forward in the community. My staff enjoys what they're doing. And then our clients, we don't do annual contracts, they're month over month, and they keep paying us each month. So we're doing something all right.
That's a great report card, and I certainly hope people will jump online and start voting and filling up that ballot box, if you will.
Cannabis Creative, and give us a vote. We'll take it, or give us a call, and we can help you get some business. Either way.
There you go. And Dan is still there, my friend Dan Serrard. Yes,
he is. He is having a great year. Very exciting news in his family coming. So. As he takes that next step in his life. But yes, we're more than excited to have Dan still, and he's been getting better at golf too. He started a year and a half ago, and he's already breaking 90. Jimmy, I'll tell you, he's a 14 handicap 2 years in. For people that golf, they can respect that.
That's outstanding.
I think he shot an 82 the other day when I was out with him.
He's
less than 2 years in. It's pretty good.
He's an athlete, right?
He's an athlete. I know there's a little athlete side of him, but either way, anything below 90 2 years in golf is pretty incredible.
Fantastic. And, I can't remember. Yes, I can, because I got hurt the last time I was on the golf course. What a shock. And who knows if I'll be able to walk on a new hip when this comes around or not, because I don't know when that's going to happen. And what's on the docket for Joint Venture Co. there? What you up to besides the THC Open?
Yeah, thanks for asking. One of our other clients is producing their conference in Providence, Rhode Island. It's called the Cannabis Science Conference. It's coming up here the 20th to the 22nd. So we're really excited about supporting some grassroots marketing for them, some content marketing, as well as securing what's known as a boot camp partner, and working with the local boot camp partner named Mother Earth Wellness out of Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And Seth knows I love this word, but curating an immersive experience for the conference attendees who want to get to be on site with the vertical operator, see what the behind the scenes looks like from seed to sale. So that's really exciting. And then Joint Venture Co. is turning 5 years old on September 28th. So we've got some impromptu gatherings, some content pushing that we'll be putting out there. So, and then our good friend Sensi will be working with them for what's known as the Harvest Cup campaign. It's an after party out at the Palladium in Worcester, Mass. And that's coming up in November. And then some things that are brewing for MJ BizCon. So, but that's good for now for us.
Absolutely. Hey, Seth, this one's going to go back to you, and it has to do with the development of different parts of the industry, the beverage world, the edible world, the travel world. Where do you think the growth is going to be greatest once normalization gets involved here and everybody accepts the fact that the plant isn't going away?
I mean, normalization or legalization is two different things.
Right.
I mean, you're seeing destigmatization everywhere, which is great. People, I mean, just think to a year ago, let alone 5 years ago, how many people at a water cooler openly talking about their experience on a gummy or whatever, where if you're, you know, you got a J going and people will ask to join in versus where they might have not in the past, even though they might have wanted to. So you've already started to see some of that. Ultimately, the sector that you just mentioned that hasn't really blown up, and we again obviously do a lot non-cannabis, being in business for 14 years, but we do a ton in tourism as well. And I'm really excited to see what it will do to tourism. There are a few places where it's already, I want to say, accepted or promoted, if you will, as part of the trip. But I think just being in general, you know, decriminalized and regulated, or regularly available, I should say. And you're going to see that in the Virgin Islands. They're voting for it, down in Aruba and other islands as well. They're moving in that direction, which will open up, you know, different opportunities for people to make money, obviously.
Yeah. Hey, and once it's open in the U.S. Virgin Islands, I don't know about you, but it sounds like they have better winters than Massachusetts does. I'm just saying, right?
We've had clients in St. Thomas for the better part of 7 years. Besides the big hurricane that hit, yeah, it's not a bad place to have to go for business. I've had to go on a few trips, it's not so bad. I've had worse places to have to go for business.
Yeah, and St. John, to me, is one of the most beautiful places on earth. And I haven't been to too many, but I've been to Pebble Beach, and it's right up there with Pebble Beach, Seth. And I know you can relate to Carmel.
I hear you. I did Pinehurst this year. Well, that was quite the trip.
Oh, that's a great one. Now, Pinehurst is a open. You can play there. You don't have to be a member, right?
Correct. I played the course where the U.S. Open will be this year, so I got to play three. I played 4 of the courses. There's 8 courses on the property. It's pretty wild, but I did get to play the primary course where the U.S. Open is going to be. It's pretty hard. I hit the ball well that day, and I did not score well. It's going to be fun to watch on TV. I can be like, oh, I know where I was on that hole. Oh, no. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Hey, and I bet you already know this. Golfers are never happy with how they play. Okay. They just aren't. They have a million excuses. Okay. And what it all comes down to is just go play more golf, because you have to practice. And then, by the way, learn how to back the ball up like Seth did on his hole-in-one. I love that.
I do have a post coming out next week on our website talking about seizing the opportunity and putting yourself in a position to succeed. I admittedly 5 years ago don't think I ever would have been able to do that, and I've put a lot of time in my spare time trying to get better at something and trying to achieve it, just like I have in marketing and other places in my life, and I'm seeing the results. So it's fun. It makes it a lot more fun when you can go out and enjoy the day and not curse and want to throw your putter in the lake and all different types of things, or drive the cart somewhere not there. So no, it's good. It's good. It's been fun.
So Ann, I want your feedback on the beverages versus travel. Those are probably the 2 biggest upsides in industries.
I mean, it makes it certainly accessible, and for folks to kind of titrate their dosing and be able to kind of, in a social setting, more acceptable. I mean, I was just in P-Town, and I would have certainly have preferred like cannabis derived beverages than bottles of champagne, especially the next day. So I do think like folks would totally prefer it. And I'm first gen immigrant, and it would be also accessible and great to have this as an option overseas as well. So having a little, a can type beverage while I'm down by the beach on the islands that my parents grew up on would be more preferred than beer for me personally.
What's the island?
The islands of Azores, Terceira and Fayal.
Okay. All right. Very cool. And when this is what I'm not going to embarrass you.
Wait, hold on. My parents grew up on Long Island, if you're curious. Just so you know.
Obviously.
And your parents have a history from, you know.
Oh, they go back. They just had their 50th anniversary this year. So, and my parents get, as we've, as most people in the industry know, my dad is our CFO and one of my business partners, and Anne has had the pleasure of working with him these last 2 years, and she likes hearing the family history as she pulls off this event and needs to leave things all over the state, whether it be my parents' basement, my basement, the office, and whatnot. So, anyways, yes, but congrats to them. They did just have their 50th anniversary a few months ago, which is pretty.
Congrats to them, absolutely, and congrats to you guys one more time. TEEHC Open. Where can people sign up and actually just come out and just have a happy time, right? I mean, that's
their happy passes available. That's why we call it that. It's the TEE, 2 E's, HCOpen.com. And yes, we do have the trademark on that, but feel free to come on down. Obviously need to sign up first. We are going to be at capacity. Super excited about the sold out event. And if you go to the website and reach out to us, you can get the password and you can go ahead and purchase your tickets right online.
All right, that's Seth Worby from the Cannabis Creative Group, alongside Anne Brum from A Joint Venture Co. And Anne, how can people find out about you?
Yeah, so jointvco.com or connect with me on LinkedIn at Anne M. Brum, BRUM, and that's probably the most active spot. And I would say also connect with Seth on LinkedIn as well, and check out cannabiscreative.com and what they've got going on there for solutions with marketing. And just quickly, just thank you to all of our sponsors. Thank you to the entire team at Cannabis Creative. They've been absolutely wonderful. My team as well. Shout out to Christina and Dan. They've been an absolute pleasure with on the Cannabis Creative team. And also all the sponsors from, Needham Bank, Salt Construction, Aruna, High Life Packaging, Outfront, Infused Elements, Canna Carton, Nimbus, Alternative Wellness, Root and Bloom, PV Extracts, Full Harvest Moons, Daydream Estates, Safely Law, Cal Verde Naturals, Melt, Canna Line, Canna Mountain, The Healing Rose, Kelia, Orange Photonics, Green Care Collective, Basque, Warner's Best CBD.
You are reading this. Hang on a second. You're reading this, right? This isn't just off the top of your head, right?
I mean, these are all people that want to hang out with me. Come on now. That's what it really is. This is just a list of Seth's friends. We're just hoping they show up.
Spring Big, The Past, My Analytics Lab, Bluebird, Med Chill, 1906, Garden Remedies, Putt Buddies, Holistic Industries, Drinkable Companies, Zion Ventures, Nova Farms, and Green Monkey. Thank you. We could not do that without you. And from our media partners like Pro Cannabis Media, The Bluntness, Sensi, Different Leaf as well. We could not do this without you. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. And Harrison Wise from The Bluntness and I are going to try and actually go live from that tournament on that day. I know. And look, you know how I am about technology. I don't believe it till I try it. So hopefully we'll do a little site survey before. And I know you have an idea of where we'll be, and we'll give it a shot. But thank you both for coming on, and we'll see you on the first tee at the TEEHC Open in a few weeks. Thanks a lot for coming on Green Rush Live.
Everyone.
Thanks.
And before I sign off and go to We Talk News, I do want to set up this Terp Town Throwdown 2 days of fun and music, and nothing but fun and music, and a whole bunch of cannabis. And it's out in Spencer, Massachusetts. They've got lineups of bands guys, it's not the Allman Brothers, it's not Marshall Tucker, it's not the Grateful Dead. These are the only bands I care about anymore, and that's all I listen to. That being said, all these are contemporary bands, and I know the main group of cannabis consumers, 21 to 34-year-olds, will love going out to this concert out in Spencer, Massachusetts. We're actually rolling on some video, and it's, you know what? I just spent an hour there, and I already can't wait to get back there. And yes, I will be there sometime tomorrow. And our new sponsor, One Hit Wonder, is on booth number 1. So you can check that out. Now, as you might imagine, this is a consumable friendly event. It's outside. 5 years ago, I really didn't know anything about the cannabis industry. Well, that's another story. The industry. And I went down to the Freedom Rally in Boston. I'd never been before. Okay. And I ran into a guy there named well, his real name's Rusco Boggs. It's Weed Boggs. He's an influencer. He had hundreds of thousands of followers. And well, let's just say it was good to see Weed Boggs today. And if you want to hang out and watch it before the news comes on, that's fine too. But just for now, remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to In the Weeds with Jimmy Young on location.
Thanks, Dan.
Throwdown in Spencer, Massachusetts. That's at the Spencer Fairgrounds. Tons of music. And more importantly, it's an open consumption event, if you catch my drift, without me saying, yes, you can actually get out here and get high and enjoy the music. And it's going to be a beautiful day. And you never know who you're going to run into. For instance, this guy right here. This is Weed Boggs, not to be confused with the Red Sox Hall of Famer, okay? This is Weed Boggs, who I met 5 years ago. And Weed Boggs, there's been a few things that have happened in your life since then.
Yeah.
Tell me.
I had a kid.
Do we have a name?
Penelope Wade Boggs.
There you go, Penelope Wade Boggs. And you still haven't met the man, the myth, the Hall of Famer.
Nah, and he was signing autographs down the street from my house last week.
Last week, and you didn't go over and say hello?
No, I didn't know until after he was there.
Ah, story of my life. Missed opportunities, right? Missed opportunities. Tell me what you're up to here now. Oh, wait, I see. Free bong rips with Weed Boggs, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Bong rip?
Go ahead.
You want a bong rip?
Go ahead. Yeah.
You want one?
Yeah. I'll do it for the camera. Yeah. Whatever you want to do. So what, is this your homegrown?
No, this is a friend of mine. I got divorced a while back, and my grow got turned into a yoga studio. So I just, my friends that are too busy trimming weed that can't come to shows, trade for some glass and some artwork that I can do.
Okay, just so people know.
We're smoking Oreos here.
Just
from Rhode Island.
What, Oreos from Rhode Island?
Yeah.
All right, I like Oreos. So you can smoke it and then get the munchies and smoke it again.
But we also, and we also sanitize in between each person, so nobody gets the vid or the hurt.
I'll bring my own mouthpiece tomorrow.
Yeah.
I have my own mouthpiece.
Herps, not herps.
That shouldn't surprise anybody who follows Pro Cannabis Media, by the way, that I wouldn't have a mouthpiece. Because, all right, are we ready? All right. Now, let me ask you. Is there a shotgun hole on this bong?
No, this is you just pull the slide.
Okay, so in my estimation, people know.
Smoked out of a bong in a while.
Right, that's true.
I haven't seen
Because
a shotgun hole in like 5-6 years.
Well, that's when we last saw each other 5-6 years ago. So maybe it was. No, I'm only kidding. I still think this is a water pipe, just for the record, not a bong. However, I'm going to give it a shot. Go ahead. My medicine, right?
Yeah. Good work.
Three for the price of one, right? Now, don't tell anybody, but I got to go back and do a show now. Hey, Weed Boggs, it was great to see you. Congratulations on Penelope. I'm so excited for you. And I told him 5 years ago I was going to get him to Weed Boggs, and I still haven't. Wade Boggs. He's Weed Boggs. I'm Jimmy Young. We'll have more after this.
Coming up on We Talk News this week, Tilt Holdings cuts funding for social equity brands with no advance warning. Former NFL running backs Ricky Williams' Heisman line is one of the victims. More delays for licenses in New York State, and now the judge is urging both sides in the dispute to get a deal done now. Both sides dig in. The Poseidon Investment Fund is sinking as advisor shares will stop trading on August 25th, another sign of the market correction in the industry. And a recent Gallup poll shows that over half of Americans 21 and over have tried cannabis. And another poll by the American Medical Association says American adults' perception that weed smoke is definitely safer than tobacco. What do the doctors think? All that and more on We Talk News with Alaina Pinto. Next.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the weekly news production of Pro Cannabis Media that we call Weed Talk News. I'm Alaina Pinto. Tilt Holdings has severed its ties with 4 brands it was supporting. Should come as no surprise to those who know that the multi-state operators are looking for ways to bring down their cost. But the real surprise to the social equity brands impacted was that it came with no warning. Former NFL player Ricky Williams' Heisman brand was cut, as was Roz McCarthy's Black Buddha strain. McCarthy is also the founder of Minorities for Medical Marijuana. The other former Tilt brand was the all-female run Her Highness, and that was founded by Laura Eisman and Allison Krongard. New interim CEO Tim Condor of Tilt might not make a lot of friends in the industry after this move. His statement, quote, "Tilt is evaluating and rationalizing our brand and product portfolio as we refine our strategy. In doing so, we came to the hard realization that Her Highness and Black Buddha are not the right long-term fit given the direction we are heading," unquote. Once again, another MSO is putting profits over people as Tilt tries to control their losses and put their balance sheet in order. This news took New York operators by surprise as well, but that state has put their licensing process on hold, so they have other problems to deal with. And New York correspondent Pam Schmiel has more on this story and another minority that is suffering from the Tilt Holdings surprise.
I'm Pam Schmiel, host of the Mary Jane Society podcast with the New York Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Yes, it's true, Jimmy. The Shinnecock Nation Indian tribe on Long Island, New York, just got the boot from their business partner, advisors, and mentors, Tilt Holdings. Tilt seems to be backing out of their deal to finance, build, and help implement an operational infrastructure for the Shinnecock Nation's cultivation, dispensary, and delivery services. Tilt's interim CEO, Tim Condor, stated that due to the challenges in New York, including unlicensed operators selling cannabis on tribal land, and the inability to sell licensed products because of the recent injunction imposed by the courts, Tilt is questioning their future relationship with the Shinnecock Nation. And on the other hand, representatives from the Shinnecock Nation shot back and want to make it very clear they are continuing to move forward with plans of constructing their cultivation and dispensary operations. And much like New York, they are trying to squash the unlicensed operators on tribal land, and they still plan to be the first tribally owned legal adult use dispensary on sovereign land on Long Island. And lastly, we are watching what happens next in the latest injunction imposed last week, halting any new cannabis licensing activities. The judge has asked all parties involved to find a solution outside the court, and no one seems to be shaking the olive branch at this point. That's this week's New York Cannabis Report. I'm Pam Schmiel for Weed Talk News.
Tilt Holdings is based in Phoenix, Arizona, and that's where you will find Karen Black, who has our Arizona Cannabis Report.
I'm Karen Black from Greenfinger Consulting with the Arizona Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. 3 social equity companies got a surprise this week. Her Highness, Heisman, and Black Buddha Cannabis were all dropped by Arizona conglomerate Tilt Holdings with no warning. The company claims it is not the right partner to help build those brands. Interim CEO Tim Condor stated the changes are part of refining Tilt's overall brand strategy and vendor rationalization effort. In another unexpected development, Tilt announced it is severing its partnership with the New York Shinnecock Nation due to various challenges in that state's market. There are some interesting statistics from the Grand Canyon state. Arizona's average monthly adult use sales decreased from 125.7 million to 113.5 million for the first half of 2023 compared to 2022, a 9.7% drop. The state joins 5 other mature markets reportedly experiencing macroeconomic pressures such as price compression and inflation. Despite the decrease in sales, 4 Arizona cities ranked among the top 40 most weed-friendly as published by 24/7 Wall Street. Phoenix came in at number 17, while suburbs Glendale and Mesa were 22nd and 23rd respectively. Scottsdale scored the 38th spot. On another positive note, driving under the influence of marijuana accounted for only 154 crashes, or 0.07%, on all Arizona roads in 2022, and only 1.09% of fatal crashes. The figures contradict anecdotal claims that cannabis legalization has caused more traffic accidents. That's this week's Arizona Cannabis Report. I'm Karen Black from Green Finger Consulting, reporting for Weed Talk News.
Another day and another sales record for a legal adult use state. In this case, it's Michigan. That state has been legally selling cannabis to consumers since the year 2018, and now they have new monthly sales record in July. $276 million was sold in that month in Michigan, a 32% increase year over year and a 6% jump from June. So while sales continue to increase in the industry, the doom and gloom from the biggest players in this space is also continuing. In this case, the investment community. Advisor shares the largest cannabis fund manager will liquidate the Poseidon Investment Fund at the end of August. And with more from what is going on with the public cannabis market, here's Doug Miller from High on Wall Street.
I'm Doug Miller from High on Wall Street with this week's cannabis stock report for Weed Talk News. The Poseidon Dynamic Cannabis ETF, it's shutting down. The fund has lost about 74% in value since it was founded. The final day of trading will be August 25th, and then the fund will liquidate all the assets and pay to shareholders on September 1st, according to a notice on the fund's website. Now let's look at the stock chart as it's trading under $1 at around 98 cents. And again, it's going to stop trading in 1 week. So it's not looking good and not looking good for the cannabis industry. And that's this week's cannabis stock report. Reporting for Weed Talk News, I'm Doug Miller.
One of the biggest hurdles in Washington, D.C. to get federal reform going again, besides the standoff between the two political parties, is getting more dollars allocated for research. There are a handful of polls and research surveys conducted by reputable organizations that we will share. You know about the Gallup pollsters. Well, according to their latest poll, more than half of U.S. adults over 21 have tried cannabis at some point in their lives. And another poll published in the American Psychiatric Journal found that more adults are finding cannabis safer to use than opioids, alcohol, vaping, and technology. Then an American Medical Association poll was released this week that has been going on since 2017. Among over 5,000 participants with an average age of 50, concludes that 44% of Americans believe that weed smoking is somewhat or much safer than cigarette smoking. So, as legalization and access increases around the country, with 23 states having legalized the plant medicine, the acceptance of its use is increasing. We know one person who knew this a long time ago, our Missouri correspondent, Brandon Jones, and his report is sponsored by Baker Brands.
What's up, everybody? Brandon Jones here with B Green Distribution with Missouri Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News, sponsored by Baker Brands. Appreciate you guys. And whoa, Missouri is going crazy right now. If you haven't seen the news, there's been a massive recall, and there's been some sneaky stuff going on around down here. So I found out one of the actual manufacturers was doing an inversion here, changing their Delta 8 to Delta 9, selling it off And what do you know? They just happened to ask for a day extra when they found out that they were going to come visit. Didn't want DHSS to come see it. And then miraculously, the next day, all the security footage is missing. I don't know. But if you couldn't tell, there is quite a big deal going on around here. So inversion is basically when you're not allowed in the state of Missouri in any way. And that's what's been going on. So there's tons of products that have been using this distillate to either put into their pens or to infuse into their edibles. And now they're finding out this was not done legally in any way. And there's going to be quite an investigation. There's already been lawsuits filed and all that is already happening here in Missouri. So our first real big, I'd say, recall, we had a littler one before that I wouldn't say was too small, but this is on a whole nother level. We're finding out there was actually, might be some intent here versus the other one might have, all the other ones might have just been mistakes and didn't, catch it in testing. So it's been a little crazy. So make sure that when you go check out your dispensary menu before you go to all the dispensaries here in Missouri, because there's a lot of products you can't get. But on a lighter note, events are getting ready to happen. The weather's beautiful. Concert season is around the corner. We've got Paul Wall coming. We got Juicy J coming again to Kansas City. So please get out here to Kansas City. Take advantage of this beautiful weather. Find some cannabis that's now recreational legally here. So when you visit, you can just go to a dispensary. So stay educated, stay medicated. Brandon Jones, the Boost Man with B Green Distribution. Have a great week, everybody.
Brandon Jones, Missouri Cannabis Report is brought to you by Baker Brands, a curated B2B marketplace for head shops and dispensaries.
Our European correspondent Lex Pelger is off this week, preparing for his appearance at the CB Expo in Dortmund, Germany next month. This week, Germany's cabinet passed a law that would allow possession of up to 1 ounce home grow and the sale of cannabis at social clubs. Now, this bill still has to pass Parliament in Germany, but this country is in a position to be the biggest European market. No issues with legalization in Canada, and that's where Debbie Facey is every week with her Canadian Cannabis Report.
This is your Canadian correspondent, Debbie Facey with We Talk News with your Canadian Toke of the Week. What we had in Ontario this week, Brantford, Ontario to be exact, was a seizure of close to $100 million when it came to the illegal cannabis market. In the Mohawk, Ontario area, they were able to find and seize and not only arrest up to 18 people that were conjoined with this operation that they had been following since February 2023. What we also have is Alberta going to be stopping the selling of the cannabis edible product by Mana, which has not only a THC and a CBD content, but as well as a CBN percentage as well, which makes the product a bit more harder not only to understand, but as well higher in the actual allowance when it comes to the percentage of any sort of active components when it comes to THC. And last but not least, the projections that we have for the years 2023 and 2024 for our cannabis sectors is $463 million when it comes to our taxes. That is something that most of the LPs are looking forward to, and hopefully we're able to attain. This is Debbie Facey, your Canadian correspondent with the Canadian Toke of the Week.
Here's another interesting study that just came out in the International Journal of Drug Policy. There is a compelling evidence that in the states where there is legal medical cannabis programs, health insurance premiums go down. If adopted, it might take 7 years to implement, but here's another set of research that shows positive health results in legal cannabis states. Now, let's get out to Matthew Friedlander in Washington State, where they are going after illegal dispensaries more now than ever before.
Hello all, Matthew Friedlander coming to you from the owner's office here at Skagit Organics with the Washington State Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. So today's report is going to focus on something that I've been thinking a lot about, the difference between commercialization and legalization of cannabis. So here in Washington, as in most states that have a regulated cannabis market, we have commercialized cannabis. You still need licenses from the state to operate. There are still many rules and regulations that you need to follow to stay in compliance. And as we know, there have always been people in the cannabis space who push that envelope, for better or for worse. Unfortunately, 2 such operations were shut down recently by the LCB, one in Tacoma and one on the Nisqually tribal lands, both brick and mortar stores operating without a license. It is also a Class C felony still here in Washington, 5 years, I believe, to grow a single cannabis plant at home. And so obviously there are people out there still trying to make positive changes to get to a fully legalized cannabis market. So to that end, I do want to point out a group here in Washington is holding a homegrown march for the purpose of gathering signatures to put this issue on the ballot as an initiative. The Cannabis Alliance will be hosting this event August 27th in Seattle. You can go to the website thecannabisalliance.us to find out more information about that and to get involved. So please like, share, and subscribe. And that's what I got for you today with the Washington State Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News.
In New Jersey, there's been a change to the rules for judicial staff who might want to work in the cannabis industry. You will not be allowed to be hired back. Joe Goldsberry has that and the announcement that the Cookies dispensary has opened in Harrison, New Jersey. So here's Jill with the Garden State Cannabis Report.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to We Talk News New Jersey. I'm Jill Goldsberry, your New Jersey correspondent, and here's the latest cannabis news. This week in Atlantic City, the town looking to become the East Coast green tourism hub has opened its second adult use dispensary. Design 710 is recently opened, and it's been a long process, according to the owner, Christina Casile. She's opening at a very interesting time in Atlantic City when Mayor Marty Smalls and other city officials have expressed their support for cannabis-related tourism. However, they still have decided just recently to announce that all new license grants would be put on hold in late July indefinitely. And they're doing this because, as Mayor Smalls stated, to make sure we roll this thing out right and prevent oversaturating the market. For the record, according to recent reports in New Jersey, there are currently 38 dispensaries open in our state. Of those, 13 are exclusively for medical cannabis patients. In other news, Chief Justice Stuart Rabner just recently approved an amendment to Canon 5, which is the Code of Conduct for Court Employees, which deals with outside employment for judicial employees. Basically, what this says is the change makes employment in the cannabis industry off limits for judiciary employees, as it is for jobs in the casino industry and in places where alcohol is served, like bars. In layman's terms, as a judicial employee or government representative, you are barred from secondary employment in the industry. Holding interest in the industry, negotiating on behalf of a cannabis licensee holder, none of that is available to you. And that's it for this week. We Talk News New Jersey. I'm Jill Goldsberry, reporting from Hudson County, New Jersey, not Hudson Cannabis. But shout out to Hudson Cannabis. Have a great day.
Florida may be known as the Sunshine State, but it is fast becoming a battleground for cannabis MSOs as they jostle for position if adult use gets passed in the next election. Trulieve is the dominant provider with over 180 locations serving that state's 850,000 plus medical patients. Another sunshiny state is California, which still claims the largest legal cannabis market, and that's where Levana Vassau hosts the Bay Sesh in her native San Francisco. Here's her California Cannabis Report for this week.
I'm Levana Vassa, reporting for PCM with this week's California Report for Weed Talk News. Another MSO is leaving California, and following a week-long heat wave, bad luck strikes the sun-grown season after lightning storms spark at least 23 fires in the Emerald Triangle. First, continuing on the trend of California exodus of MSOs, Forefront Ventures Corp., a vertically integrated cannabis MSO operator and retailer, is closing up shop and leaving the Golden State, staking their claims in other newer growing markets like Illinois and Massachusetts. The Green Market Report said in an article published on August 16th that the Phoenix-based Forefront Ventures Corp. is retracting from California operations after setting a break-even goal in May, CEO Leo Gontmacher cited profitability concerns in California and announced aggressive scaling back. Instead, the company has been placing its chips on Illinois, a state they deem, quote, one of the nation's most promising markets. In other news, following a week-long heat wave, a lightning storm struck in the Emerald Triangle on Tuesday night, right in the middle of the sun-grown Mecca's outdoor growing season, endangering lives, farms, operations, and potentially damaging crops with smoke and soot. Six Rivers National Forest gave an update Wednesday morning stating that they had received approximately 150 lightning strikes across the forest since Tuesday evening, resulting in 23 confirmed fires. These fires are extremely difficult to fight because of the mountainous terrain. The update on Thursday reported that the Lone Pine Fire Complex continued to burn near the Hoopa Valley Reservation in northeastern Humboldt County and had grown to 450 acres with just 5% containment. The Bluff Complex fire was at approximately 200 acres. The Pilot Fire Complex in Humboldt County had grown to 100 acres with 0% containment. The Kelly Fire was at 1,100 acres, and the Slide Fire had reached an estimated 340 acres. That's this week's California Cannabis Report. I'm Lavana Vasa from PCM, reporting for Weed Talk News.
In January this year, Connecticut launched Market for Adult Use Sales of Cannabis. Over the first 6 months of the year, the Nutmeg State has sold 122 million of adult use product. In the other New England states, July was a record-setting month. So did Connecticut follow that? Well, Angie Seifert keeps an eye on her state, and here's her Connecticut Cannabis Report.
I'm Angie Seifert from Skip Intro Advisors with the Connecticut Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. Northern Lights, Kush, Haze, cannabis is now being sold at Connecticut dispensaries under common street names. Connecticut state law is very specific. Adult use cannabis strain names may not be identical or confusingly similar to the names of existing non-cannabis products, a previously approved brand name of cannabis, or an unlawful product. Now, 8 months later, cannabis users can buy the product under common street names, but customers still won't see Gorilla Glue or Death Star, as an example, because those would be identical or confusingly similar to the name of an existing non-cannabis product. Us in Connecticut hope this first step leads to a more relaxed prohibition of branding and brings better access. Missouri-based cannabis production facility Shangri-La seeks to open a production facility in Stratford, Connecticut. The facility would not offer retail sales and would likely employ about 130 workers. Shangri-La also is preparing to open a drive-through dispensary in Norwalk and has previously expressed interest in operating a store in the New Haven region. I live in Stratford, and I'm very supportive of bringing business and tax dollars into my town. Finally, more Norwalk residents can enter the legal cannabis market if they meet state residency requirements in neighborhoods disproportionately impacted by poverty and the war on drugs. The State Social Equity Council recertified its map of these neighborhoods or tracts called disproportionately impacted areas to include 2 new tracts. This means residents who have lived in or grown up in these neighborhoods may be considered social equity partners. Norwalk's additional 2 tracts are part of a statewide move to create more opportunity for those affected by poverty and the war on drugs. I'm Angie Seifert from Skip Intro Advisors with the Connecticut Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News.
Out west in Oregon, they continue to have issues with their cannabis market, even though they were one of the first states to legalize it. Well, now their governor is talking about an Oregon state bank that would provide capital to farmers and dispensaries. Marianne Kersagi has our report from Oregon.
I'm Marianne from Alibi with this week's Oregon Cannabis Report for Weed Talk News. This week, Oregon Governor Kotek vetoed a bill that would have provided funding to study creating a state bank for cannabis. Banking is challenging, and while there is access through credit unions, having a state bank would have affirmed the state's commitment to the cannabis industry. Unfortunately, likely due to political maneuvering, the bill was vetoed. Also, using the same phrase from last week, embattled dispensary chain LaModa is again in the news. Last week's news was about a sewer dispute with a neighboring sushi restaurant. This week, Willamette Week discovered new tax liens totaling more than $4 million. This is in addition to the other $7 million in tax liens previously reported. All while Lamota's owners are still delinquent on other bills in Oregon and are expanding to New Mexico. And finally, the lawsuit filed by the trade organization CHOW and some farmers against the OHA and the OLCC to request a stay of the aspergillus testing requirements continues to progress. That'll do it for the Oregon Report this week. I'm Marianne with Alibi for Weed Talk News.
In our nation's capital, both houses of Congress remain on their summer break. But that doesn't stop Andrew Beringer from sharing the biggest stories on the federal reform effort. The Department of Justice is disagreeing with a ruling from another court on the rights of gun owners who use cannabis. Here's Andrew.
Reporting for Weed Talk News, this is Andrew Beringer with the DC Report. Now, in federal news, another federal appeals court has ruled that a federal ban preventing people who use cannabis from possessing firearms is unconstitutional. Now, this represents the latest successful challenge to the statute in federal court. The ruling stems from an appeal filed by a medical cannabis cardholder in Pennsylvania who was prohibited from buying a firearm. Now, that case was in the Third U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, and it sided with the plaintiff, stating that the ban infringes on Second Amendment rights. However, the Department of Justice recently released a statement calling this recent ruling incorrectly decided, indicating legal battles on the issue are likely to continue. Now, this all comes as the DOJ is supposed to address the federal scheduling of cannabis by the end of this year. The recent court decision and DOJ's response don't appear favorable for advocates who want the cannabis plant completely descheduled. With over half of the U.S. population living in a legal cannabis state, it remains illegal at the federal level, and this divide between state and federal law continues to create conflict, like the one seen in this ongoing court case. Well, that'll do it for me, Andrew Beringer in the DC Area Report and Weed Talk News. Once again, have a great day.
Now with the rest of Weed Talk News, including the Bay State Cannabis Report, here's PCM founder Jimmy Young.
Thanks, Alaina. You are a tough act to follow. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media, and this is the Bay State Cannabis Report sponsored by CNA Stores. Now, over the past week, the Cannabis Control Commission of Massachusetts released suggestions for changes in the existing cannabis laws. These changes still have to be voted on and approved by the legislature, but they include giving them more say on host community agreements, opening the opportunity for more towns and cities to create social cannabis consumption lounges, and ease regulations to work in the cannabis industry with a criminal record. All this now is open to the public for comment now and will be readdressed when the CCC convenes on September 8th. Big Plan Holdings investment group out of Nashville, Tennessee is now consuming Silver Therapeutics. It's a dispensary chain in Maine, Vermont, and Massachusetts. Now, Silver Therapeutics has 3 dispensaries in operation in the Bay State in Boston, Williamstown, and Palmer. Big Plan is acquiring the real estate and the operations across all 3 New England states with eyes on more expansion in the Northeast. And if you're into the music and culture of the cannabis industry, you might want to check out the Terp Town Throwdown in Spencer over the weekend. Many music performers are set to rock out on Friday and Saturday and stop by that #1 booth. That's right, it's the one-hit wonder booth at #1 at the show. Check it out. Tell them Jimmy sent you. You can get your tickets at terptownthrowdown.com. That's the Bay State Cannabis Report, sponsored by CNA Stores. I'm PCM founder Jimmy Young reporting for Weed Talk News.
Live from the Summit Lounge is supported by CNA Stores in Massachusetts, a veteran-owned and family-operated dispensary in Amesbury and Haverhill that has the best selection in the state and a dedication to the community north of Boston.
Illinois continues to build their cannabis market into a billion-dollar industry, and our man in that state is attorney Thomas Howard from Cannabis Legalization News. he recognizes that just because they're selling a lot of weed in that state, there's still plenty of issues to deal with. Here's Thomas's report from Illinois.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? My name's Tom, and you can find me over at CannabisIndustryLawyer.com. I'm here with the Illinois report. Illinois broke records, at least for July, with over $140 million of cannabis sales. Now, for those of you doing math at home, and is that 140 million is actually recreational, not including medicinal. There are only 136 dispensaries in the state of Illinois, which means that an average Illinois dispensary did over $1 million in the month of July. And that's pretty interesting. There have been 30,000 jobs created by the cannabis industry in Illinois since 2020. And many of the purchases, about 30% of them, come from out-of-staters. This was the highest month for Illinois sales almost ever, except for December of 22, where they did 143, almost $144 million in sales. There are only 136 dispensaries that are open in Illinois, but 347 have actually been issued. Well, 55 of those are conditional ones. We got one. So tune in to Cannabis Legalization News for us trying to get a dispensary open in Illinois. And with that, that's the Illinois report. Back to you in the studio.
And finally tonight, of course, it has something to do with sports because I'm doing it, right? So when is a Hall of Fame induction ceremony more like a Hall of Flame induction ceremony? Well, that's when Dwayne Wade is involved. The newest member of the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame was inducted last week in Springfield, Massachusetts. And in his celebration, he announced he too was getting into the weed business, or rather he's teaming up with Jeter. No, not the former Yankees shortstop, but the top-selling pre-roll brand in the country, according to some. These products will be available in California, Arizona, and Michigan. The first 5 consumers who buy in those states' legal dispensaries will get a bonus. It's an autographed edition of the Hall of Flame brand from the Basketball Hall of Famer, Dwayne Wade. That's this week's Weed Talk News. I'm PCM Founder Jimmy Young reporting, and remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly. Marketing these, and yes, I'm pitching to you.
That's Steve Levine, the inventor and principal behind the One Hit Wonder. And this little efficient device is getting rave reviews.
And there's more uses than just a one-hit wonder.
The One Hit Wonder, you get a 50 milligram hit.
So if you used a one-hitter or dug out before, you know the challenges. Steve's One Hit Wonder is easy to clean, use, and enjoy.
Standard one-hitters do not work. We're afraid to inhale. The One Hit Wonder has a built-in ash catcher. So inhale like it's your last breath. Suck the ash right through.
Get it at onehitwonder.com. The Vermont Cannabis Report is supported by another Green Mountain business, Canatrol, winner of High Times Best Dry Cure System. Check them out at canatrols.com.
You would think that it is. However, there's quite a bit of debate right now in the accounting industry when it relates to cannabis with this exact question. I'm part of a few different networking groups that are solely accountants for cannabis companies. And there's been quite a bit of back and forth in those communities and discussion regarding whether 280E, if it went away, if the administration legalized cannabis or took it off of Schedule 1, what would happen? And it could go either way right now. The debate is it could make the accountant's life much easier. That's what a lot of the inexperienced accountants are saying right now, it seems. Whereas the accountants that have been in this industry for a while and have and have gone through the same thing that happened with hemp a few years ago, are saying that it actually will make lives more difficult, because when hemp became declassified a while back, the accounting became more complicated.
Sativa Labs in Westfield is fast becoming the #1 testing lab for cannabis in Western Massachusetts. Sativa understands the importance for accurate on-time test results for your product. That's why their current compliance panel turnaround time is less than 2 days. That's Sativa Labs in Westfield. For more information, go to safetiva.com.